Picture a chessboard where the pawn declares an injury and every other piece just steps aside. That's the sympathy exploit. It looks like mercy, but it moves the game in ways you'd never allow if the board were quiet. Here's the move. Someone signals weakness, real or staged, and uses your empathy to bend the rules. Not break, bend. A co-worker always has a crisis, so their deadlines drift onto your desk. A customer hints at hardship, so policy gets temporarily suspended. A stranger online crafts a sad story that nudges you to click, to send, to trust. And just like that, fairness tilts. Why does it work? Because you're decent. You care about pain. You're wired to protect the vulnerable. The exploit slips in by borrowing that goodness. And here's the twist. It converts compassion into leverage. The more public the plea, the stronger the pressure. Say no, and you risk looking cold. Say yes, and the door swings open for repeat plays. Is every plea a con? Of course not. Real people struggle. Real help matters, but the exploit thrives in the blur between kindness and policy. It shows up in patterns, not moments. One sob story becomes 5. One exception becomes the new rule. So how do you guard the gate without hardening your heart? Slow the moment. Exploits love urgency. Take a breath. Ask a simple clarifier. What's needed exactly and for how long? That pause breaks the spell. Turn stories into standards. If the reason is valid, it should stand as a rule anyone in the same situation can use. Consistent rules protect fairness, and paradoxically, protect real people better than exceptions do. Share the weight. If help is owed, spread it across the system. Don't let the same soft-hearted person carry it all. The exploit loses power when the burden is transparent and shared. Look for receipts, not just feelings. Documentation isn't cruelty. It's care for the whole group. When something's real, proof is possible. When it isn't, the pressure rises, the details crumble, or the ask shifts shape. And this is key. Offer dignity without surrendering the field. You can say, I hear you, and still say, we have to keep the rules. You can provide short-term support with a clear end. You can help once while making it clear it won't become always. What's the tell? Repetition, secrecy, and guilt. If the ask returns again and again, if it dodges daylight, if you're being shamed for keeping standards, that's not compassionate work. That's manipulation. Keep your empathy. Guard your fairness. Real kindness isn't a back door. It's a well-lit entrance with the same door for everyone, open, humane, and held by a steady hand. Snap your fingers and picture a crowd turning their heads, not because of the snap, but because someone just shouted, "Outrage!" That's the trick. The noise pulls eyes in one direction, while the real move happens in the other. Here's the exploit. Outrage is a spotlight with a mind of its own. It floods the stage, raises the temperature, and makes people feel urgent, righteous, sure. And while everyone's feeding the fire and posting, arguing, refreshing, the quiet hands get to work in the dark. A policy gets tweaked. A price inching up slips through. A clause grows teeth. The room is busy yelling and the ink dries. Why does it work? Because outrage feels like action. It feels like courage. It feels like you're defending something. But it rarely asks for verification, patience, or context. It runs hot. It rewards speed over clarity. And folks who understand that, the ones who want a distraction, light the fuse, then step around the back. What does the setup look like? First, find tinder, a sore spot, a rivalry, a rumour with a little truth. Next, amplify it, a bold statement, a staged feud, a leak that accidentally spreads. Now the tempo rises. Comments pour in, reactions stack up. And here's the twist. The real play isn't the argument. It's the sidebar update, the silent vote, the reworded terms that slip in under the siren. Seen it before? A brand picks a fight with a loud critic while sliding through a subtle change to how your data's used. A leader tosses a culture war grenade while a quiet committee moves money. A platform triggers a pile-on, then, while everyone's mad, buries the lead under fresh controversy. Chaos in the front, calm, careful handwriting in the back. So, what do you do when the room goes hot? Ask one simple question, out loud or in your head. What's happening just off stage? Breathe. Look for the update page, the footnotes, the legal line that wasn't there yesterday. Follow the timing, not the shouting. If the outrage is loud at sunrise, check what changed at midnight. And when you can, step into slower spaces. Long-form notes, official filings, trustworthy breakdowns. Slowness is a shield. If you lead a team, teach this reflex. When a controversy hits your feed, assign someone to watch the noise and someone else to watch the paperwork. Separate the heat from the signal. Say it plainly, we won't make decisions in the first flush of anger. Fear and fury are lousy editors. And if you're tempted to use the exploit yourself, remember the cost. Manipulation is a short bridge that often collapses on the way back. There's a cleaner move. Create focus without lighting a fire. Use surprise, clarity, and timing. Announce boldly. Document transparently. And let trust do the heavy lifting. Outrage wants to own your attention. Don't hand it the keys. When the room erupts, tilt your head, step a little to the side, and look for the quiet hand. The loudest thing isn't always the most important thing. The important thing is usually the quiet thing, moving while everyone else is yelling. A single sigh can crash a firewall, not a password, not a key card, just a practiced breath that says, I've suffered, let me through. You've seen it, a closed door. Then a story appears, soaked in pity, and the lock melts. That's the Victimhood Exploit. It hijacks empathy to override rules that should hold firm. Logic says, wait your turn. Emotion whispers, make an exception, just this once. Why does it work? Because we're wired to protect the weak. Saying no to someone who says they're hurting feels cruel. The risk is lopsided. If we deny a real victim, we feel guilt. If we let a faker in, the cost is invisible. So our brains choose the softer path. And here's how the exploit plays out. The ask is small at first, almost harmless. Skip a step, sign without checking, look the other way. Then the story swells. More misfortune, more urgency, tears maybe, or a shruggy, wounded tone that says, pushing back would make you the villain. Notice the surface moves, vagueness, contradictions, a timeline that slides around, but the emotional pressure stays focused. Let me bypass the system. Ever hear, I'm not asking for special treatment, I just need a little compassion. That line is the back door. Compassion becomes currency. The rules become negotiable. Suddenly, this isn't about policy, it's about you proving your kind. So what do you do when the plea hits hard? Start by separating care from compliance. You can be warm and still keep structure. Try, I hear you, and I'll help inside the process. That tiny phrase cuts the exploit's power. It says yes to the person and yes to the rules. If they truly need help, they'll step in. If they're gaming you, they'll push for the exception, not the solution. Ask simple, anchoring questions. What do you need exactly? What step have you already taken? Who can verify this? You're not interrogating. You're turning the fog into facts. Exploits live in the fog. Clarity is a light that makes them shrink. Offer support that doesn't open side doors. Let's fill out the form together. We can escalate properly. Here's the resource, and here's the next step. Real victims usually want the help. Performers want the shortcut. And check yourself too. Pain is real. But when you're hurting, it's tempting to leverage it for a pass. Don't turn your wound into a weapon. Ask for help without demanding immunity. Ask for patience without demanding a bypass. Your dignity is stronger than a loophole. What if someone calls you heartless for holding the line? Pause, breathe, and hold it anyway. Say, I care, but I'm keeping things fair. That's not cruelty. That's integrity. Compassion with a spine. A single sigh can crash a firewall, but a calm, steady voice, yours, can keep the system honest. Open the door for real need and keep the lock on manipulation. That's how kindness gets sharper, not softer. That's how it stops being a weakness and becomes power. Blink too soon and you miss it. Blink too late and it's gone. The quiet cheat code that beats raw talent isn't strength or speed, it's timing. Think of a surfer. The ocean's stronger than anyone on the board, but the surfer who senses the swell half a breath earlier, who stands exactly when the pocket forms, looks like a superhero. Same wave, same board, different second. Timing turns ordinary into unreal. This is the exploit no one warns you about because it doesn't look dramatic. It looks like patience. It looks like silence. It looks like someone who waits while others rush, then steps in lightly at the exact moment of maximum leverage. Here's the twist. Timing isn't guessing. It's listening for patterns. Markets rise and fall. Energy spikes and fades. People open and close. A comedian holds the pause before a punchline. A chef waits for the pan to truly smoke. A negotiator lets the other side fill the silence. They're not lucky. They're synced. So how do you use it without needing to be the best in the room? Start by watching cycles, not minutes. Ask, what wave is coming? Is the demand building or is it about to break? When everyone is charging forward, there's often more advantage in a half step back, eyes up, scanning. Pre-position before the window opens. That means you write the note before the meeting, draft the pitch before the event, pack your bag the night before, learn the basics while it's quiet. Preparation turns timing from wishful thinking into a trigger you can pull. Keep a small reserve, time, energy, attention that you don't spend. That buffer is your pounce fund. When a door swings open, you won't be stuck hunting for your shoes. You're already at the hinge. Read the room. Humans telegraph timing with breath, blinks, micro shifts. In conversation, wait for the drop in shoulders, the exhale, the glance down. That's your green light. In crowds, watch the edges. Opportunity slips in at the margins, not through the front door. And here's the part that feels like magic. Commit to being slightly early to prepare and slightly late to act. Early to learn, to set, to aim. Late to launch until signal appears. Early gets you ready. Late gets you right. Worried you'll miss it? Create alarms tied to turning points. Seasonal spikes. Announcement days. The moment a project hands off. Build tiny rituals that slow you down. One long breath. A count to 3. A quiet wait now. Those beats keep you from swinging at every pitch and help you crush the right one. You don't need to be the strongest, the loudest, or the smartest. You just need to arrive at the moment when the system wants to help you. That's the exploit. Not breaking rules, bending with them until they push you forward. Wait for it. Watch the tells. Move on the click. When the wave forms, stand. When the pan smokes, sear. when the room softens, speak. Perfect timing beats perfect anything. Listen for the click, that little mental snap when someone says, "I'm the best at this." And your brain, annoyed but curious, leans in. That's the exploit. Make a sound so confident that people assume there's fire behind the smoke. Not because they're foolish, but because everyone's busy. We use shortcuts. Loud often reads as leader. Momentum looks like proof. Certainty feels like safety. You don't need to be the biggest, just become the clearest. Pick a simple headline and wear it like a uniform. I help these people do this thing. Fast, clean, reliable. Say it so often it becomes the caption people put under your name without thinking. Here's the twist. It's not about lying, it's about lighting. Same product, better stage lights. You publish your wins, your lessons, your near misses, and you frame them as evidence of direction. You turn tiny sparks into visible signals, a pinned post, a crisp bio, a repeatable story you can tell in one breath. You share client love, screenshots, a quick voice note, a photo from the room where it happened. People can't cheer what they can't see. Think about a crowded street. One restaurant is humming, the other is quiet. We assume the hum means better food. Self-promotion builds the hum. Create micro lines around your work, a wait list, a weekly drop, a running thread of progress. Pre-announce what you're building, then show the build in public. Rhythm beats mystery. Familiarity breeds trust. Worried it's cringe? Of course. But cringe is just newness rubbing against courage. It fades. Results don't. When you go first and go loud, not obnoxious, just undeniable, you give people permission to talk about you. Their echo multiplies your voice. And that echo becomes social proof you didn't have to pay for. Want it to land without sounding like a billboard? Tell the truth, then underline it. Wrapped 3 projects this week. Learned a smarter way to do revisions. Spoke with a founder today. We fixed their onboarding in 1 hour. It's a brag wrapped in a lesson, which makes it useful, not just loud. Borrow credibility, but be clean. Stand next to respected names, collaborate, guest on small stages that you can show. Stack those moments. A handful of real signals, presented clearly, outperforms 1,000 quiet masterpieces no one knows exist. Ask yourself, what's the one line you want people to repeat when you're not in the room? Say that line. Say it everywhere. Back it with visible proof. Even tiny proof counts. And keep the drumbeat steady. The world isn't waiting to crown you. It's waiting for a reason to assume you're already winning. Give it one. Then give it another, and another. Say it, back it, repeat, and watch rooms rearrange themselves around your name. That glow on the office ceiling at midnight? It's not the lights. It's a halo someone put on themselves. Here's the trick. When a system can't easily measure real impact, it starts measuring something else, visible struggle. The size, the late-night emails, the ever-present status pings. It's the burnout exploit, where being seen working becomes the shortcut to being seen as valuable, even when the output doesn't match. How does it play out? Someone drags tasks just enough to spill past normal hours, then parades the rescue. They copy everyone on updates, pile into every meeting, answer instantly in every channel. And because it looks like hustle, it reads as commitment. That's the theatre of exhaustion. Dramatic, noisy, and oddly persuasive. Why does it work? We're wired to equate effort with worth. Managers juggling too many plates latch onto what's easy to notice. The hero narrative kicks in. The one who stays latest must care the most. But caring isn't the same as producing. Output hides in quiet places, a clean handoff. a bug that never hits production, a fire that never starts. Here's the cost. Teams learn to perform tired instead of perform well. Real problem solvers get drowned out by louder signals. Mistakes creep in. Creativity shrinks. Talent watches the game, then walks. And the whole system gets slower, clunkier, more brittle until it breaks. Tempted to use the exploit yourself? Short term, you'll collect credit. Long term, trust erodes. People start noticing that the lights are always on around you, yet the room doesn't change. The antidote is simple, not flashy. Show outcomes, not hours. Narrate decisions, not drama. What changed? What risk disappeared? What's now faster or safer? Protect deep work by carving quiet blocks and telling your team what result you'll deliver when you emerge. Send one clear summary instead of 10 breathless check-ins. Schedule emails for the morning so your signal isn't "I'm here late," it's "this is done." Leading a team? Flip the scoreboard. Ask for definitions of done, not displays of strain. Praise boring reliability, the fixes that prevent fires, the clean architecture nobody sees. Celebrate time saved and defects avoided. Set humane boundaries. No hero points for after-hours noise. If someone keeps winning by staying late, ask what's blocking them in the day. If someone ships excellent work and leaves on time, shine a light on that. So, what does real effort look like? It looks like clarity. It looks like fewer meetings and more finished work. It looks like a person who can step away because the system runs without them being theatrically present. The Burnout Exploit thrives on applause for suffering. Remove the applause. Reward results, quiet, steady, repeatable results, and the exploit stops paying. The halo fades, the work gets better, and the light you see at night becomes what it should be: off. Say 4 words and watch the room go quiet. It's the right thing. That sentence is a force field. Wrap any plan in virtue, and suddenly questioning it feels like confessing a flaw in your character. That's the moral high ground exploit. Plant a flag on the peak, and critics look like villains climbing after you with muddy boots. Here's how it shows up. You're in a meeting, talking budgets. Someone proposes a shiny initiative, then adds, "because we care about our community." Heads nod. You ask a fair question about costs and outcomes, and the air shifts. You're not being practical anymore, you're being cold. You can feel the trap spring shut. Online, it's even faster. A thread about a complex policy turns into, "if you cared about kids, you'd agree." Now it's not data versus data, it's care versus cruelty. And who wants to be cast as cruel? Psychologically, when a claim gets wrapped in virtue, our brains tag it as safe, and pushback gets tagged as betrayal. It shortcuts thinking by leaning on social proof, identity, and our fear of being shamed by the group. So what do you do without becoming cynical? You name the move gently. Try, "I share that value," and to honour it, "I want details so we can do this well." Separate the value from the proposal. Values are the destination. Proposals are just routes on a map. Once you split them, you can check the route, costs, trade-offs, evidence, without looking like you've turned your back on the destination. Ask disarming questions. What specific outcome would prove this works? What would make us change our minds? Where could this go wrong? And how would we know early? These aren't attacks. They're lights on the path. And here's the twist. Real moral courage invites inspection. It says, "kick the tires." It wants the tough questions because it cares about reality, not just reputation. When people welcome scrutiny, trust grows. When they weaponize virtue to dodge it, trust shrinks. If you catch yourself using the exploit, don't panic. It's human to reach for social armor when we feel uncertain. Just step down from the peak and stand on the work. Try. I think this is right, and I'm open to being wrong. Show me the holes. That single line turns a shield into a bridge. It lowers defenses, and it opens the door to an actual solution, not a performance. Let's reframe the win. It's not virtue versus vice. It's virtue plus verification. Not good person logic, but good process. Not silence by shame, but clarity by design. Because the real high ground isn't up on a lonely ridge, shouting down questions. The real high ground is where your values are sturdy enough to stand next to measurement, debate, and revision, and still hold. If it's truly the right thing, it can handle the light. Here's the quiet cheat code no one calls out. Don't race them. Outlast them. Most people mistake that for doing nothing. It's not. It's an active edge. The Outlast exploit makes you look calm, patient, even trustworthy, while time does the heavy lifting. You're not grabbing quick openings or lunging for every chance. You're setting a pace you can sustain and watching impatience take your competitors off the board. What beats speed? Stamina. Think about a negotiation. The room fills with urgency. Voices rise and offers bounce around like pinballs. You breathe, you ask one clear question, then you let silence work. Silence is time, and time makes people show their real prices. You look patient, not opportunistic, but the edge is yours. Or take careers. Trend hoppers jump from one shiny lane to the next. The Outlaster picks a lane and builds tiny, boring reps day after day. The world calls it discipline. It's really design. Small deposits compounded become a reputation you can't fake. That looks like character, but underneath, it's strategic patience. And here's the twist. Outlasting isn't slow, it's selective. You move fast on the few moves that matter, and you ignore the rest. When the crowd burns energy on every ripple, you save yours for the wave. So how do you run this without burning out yourself? Set a longer clock than everyone else and lower your cost of staying in the game. That means simpler systems, fewer promises, lighter overhead. If you can survive the boring middle, you win the ending by default. People don't quit at the start. They quit in the middle. Make time your teammate. Protect your energy like it's capital. Build small reserves, even tiny buffers of sleep, cash, and focus, so you can hold the line when things get noisy. Create a rhythm you can keep on a bad day. A short daily pass, a tiny practice block, a one-page plan. You're lowering the friction to show up. That's how you last. Notice what happens to your image when you play this way. You stop looking hungry. You look steady. In a world allergic to desperation, steadiness reads as trust. That's the disguise. It's not a hustle. It's a presence, and presence pulls opportunity toward you. Ask yourself, what game would I still be playing a year from now if the applause stopped? Where can I simplify so staying in costs less than quitting? What tiny action would keep the flame lit, even on a bad week? Pick the game. Reduce the cost of showing up. Build a quiet cache of energy. Say no to noise, then wait. Fatigue will do half the work for you. Patience is not passive. It's pressure applied over time. So when others sprint, smile. You're not late. You're setting a pace they can't hold. Outlast them and let time unlock doors that force never could. Here's a glitch nobody patches. You can rewrite your character mid-game, and most people will clap like it was the plan all along. Call it the Reinvention Exploit. You take a public loss, an awkward pivot, a dream that didn't land, and you wrap it in a new story so clean it looks intentional. Not fake, just reframed. In a world that scrolls fast, narrative is the name tag people glance at before they decide who you are. So how do you pull it off without feeling like a fraud? First, rename the game. Don't say, I used to be X, now I'm trying Y. That screams apology. Say, I'm a Y who draws on X. It honours your past, but it makes your present the headline. People follow headlines. Second, change the uniform. New language, new look, new room. If you're still using the old tools, the old bio, the old vibe, you're whispering, this is temporary. Pick a few visible signals and lock them in. The first 3 touch points someone has with you should tell the same story. Third, set a new scoreboard. Old metrics measure old goals. Define what winning looks like now and make it simple enough to repeat. 1 client booked, 1 demo shipped, 1 chapter written. Share small wins often, so the world sees momentum they can believe in. Fourth, own the scar briefly. A reinvention without struggle feels suspicious. 1 clean sentence about what didn't work, what you learned, and why the new path matters. Then move. Don't linger. Curiosity is a magnet, shame is glue. Fifth, switch audiences. The toughest crowd is the one that met your past self. Don't wait for their permission. Walk into rooms where your new identity isn't a surprise, it's a relief. Every tribe has rituals. Learn them, add value, become familiar. Sixth, hold a consistency window. Give yourself 90 straight days where every public action points in the same direction. No hedging, no maybe I'll go back. Consistency is the camouflage that hides yesterday's failure and reveals today's design. You might ask, isn't this cheating? Only if you're pretending to be someone you're not. Reinvention isn't costume play. It's alignment. It's choosing the version of you that matches your current courage, not your old comfort. The exploit isn't about lying, it's about editing, cutting the parts of the story that keep you small and amplifying the parts that move you forward. Picture an artist who stops chasing hits and becomes a producer who builds them. Same ear, different stage. Or a founder whose first launch flopped, then reappears as a consultant who helps others dodge those landmines. Same scars, new armor. When the frame changes, the picture makes sense. Here's the twist. The world isn't waiting to expose your past. It's waiting for a story it can repeat. Give it one. Clear, repeatable, emotionally true. Pull the Reinvention Exploit with care. Use it to grow, not to hide. Step into the new name, the new uniform, the new scoreboard, and walk like you belong because you do. The system won't break, but your limits will. Picture a fire alarm blaring, smoke curling, and one calm voice cutting through the chaos. It was them. In that instant, the room shifts. Eyes move. The story starts writing itself. That's the blame transfer exploit. It's a tactic that weaponizes timing and tone. Be the first to assign fault, and you tilt the ground under everyone else's feet. People stop asking, what happened, and start asking, how guilty are they? The frame is set. The search for facts becomes a hunt for confirmation. Why does it work? Early stories anchor us. We hate uncertainty, so we grab the first clear narrative and hold on. Add a confident voice, a few vivid details, a sprinkling of moral outrage, and boom, the mind says, that sounds right. Meanwhile, the target scrambles. They're defensive, flustered, emotional, and to a stressed audience, that looks like guilt. You see it everywhere. A group project goes sideways, and the quickest email singles out the bottleneck. A playground shove turns into they started it, delivered with earnest eyes and a ready timeline. A leak hits a company, and within minutes a manager is guiding leadership toward the careless intern. The specifics change, but the trick is the same. Move first, sound certain, let the system do the rest. There are tells. The accuser pushes the pace. Act now, decide fast. They offer neat specifics that can't be checked, and vague claims that can. They wrap their story in values, trust, safety, integrity, so disagreeing feels disloyal. And they borrow authority, mentioning who already knows, nudging you to fall in line. So how do you stop it? Slow the clock. Say, we'll get this right, not just get it done. Separate the claim from the claimant. Their confidence isn't proof. Ask for a simple, checkable timeline. Who was where, when, and what artifact shows that? A message? A log? A calendar note? Hold both sides to the same standard of evidence. Don't let first accusation turn into automatic verdict. Listen for the shape of the story. Real events are messy. Prepared stories are tidy and conveniently flattering. Who benefits if we accept this version? What changes if we delay judgment by even a little? And when someone's reputation is on the line, write it down. Decisions, reasons, sources, a paper trail protects people from momentum masquerading as truth. And if you're tempted to use this exploit yourself, notice that urge. Ask what it costs to win this way. You might dodge one consequence, only to plant a deeper one. A team that doesn't trust you, a system that's easier to bend, and a future where anyone can aim it back at you. Punishment, like water, follows the slope you set early. Set it carefully, or better, reset it, toward facts, fairness, and the courage to say, let's see what's real. Here's a little social glitch that feels almost unfair. Step in first, say sorry, and watch the fuse on someone's anger go out before it even catches. Sounds backward, right? We're taught to defend, to explain, to make our case. But anger feeds on resistance. It's a tug of war. The moment you drop your end of the rope, there's nothing to pull against. That's the exploit. You own the friction before it owns the room. Picture it. You're late. They're waiting, arms crossed, breath short. Most people rush into reasons, traffic, calendar mix-ups, whatever. Try this instead. Start with ownership, then impact, then intent. I kept you waiting. That's on me. I know that cost you time, and I'm tightening how I plan my morning. Want me to jump straight to the update you need? That first beat, owning it, melts the guard they were about to raise. You gave them respect before they had to demand it. Worried it'll make you look weak. Here's the twist. It signals control. You're not dodging. You're steering. People don't stay mad at someone who clearly sees the mess, names the mess, and starts cleaning it up. That's competence, not groveling. What if you weren't wrong? You still apologize for the friction, not your existence. I can see how that felt rushed. I'm sorry for the confusion. Let me slow down and spell out the steps. Notice the shift. You're not surrendering the point. You're removing the heat so the point can be heard. Let's try it in a tough email. You sense a client is simmering. You don't wait. You open with, I realize my last note created mixed signals. That's on me. Here's the clear path forward. And if anything still feels off, I'll fix it fast. That preemptive sorry is like a fire blanket. No flames, no smoke, just clarity. In a crowded store, someone snaps at you for cutting line. Even if you thought the lane was open, go first. My mistake, I didn't see the cue. You're ahead. You move. Shoulders drop. Air returns to the room. You turned a clash into a nod. Two guardrails matter. Never use the brittle non-apology. Sorry you feel that way. That pushes blame back on them and reignites the spark. And don't over-apologize. One clean sorry plus a fix beats a puddle of regret. Keep it crisp. Keep it active. Own the blame. Own the room. That's the heart of it. You go first, you lower the temperature, and suddenly you're both solving instead of sparring. So the next time you feel a storm rolling in, before explanations, before defense, before the heat builds, step forward. Say the simple word, aim it at the friction, then steer. That's the exploit. Use it for good. You know that tiny jolt you feel when a door closes and the room on the other side bursts into laughter? Your brain leans forward like, wait, what did I just miss? That pull has a name, fear of missing out. And here's the quiet exploit. If you can spark that feeling ethically, you can lead people without rank, titles, or permission. Not by pushing them, by creating a moment that might slip away unless they move. Think of it like ringing a bell that doesn't keep ringing. One clear chime, then silence. People move not because you forced them, but because the moment is now and the window is closing. Here's what it looks like in real life. You're in a group chat at work. Everyone's fine with anything, which means nothing's happening. You say, I just opened a shared doc for the plan. First 3 names in the doc get early input. Then we lock it for this week. You didn't boss anyone around. You made early input feel scarce. You set a gentle deadline and you lit up the path. Suddenly names appear. Momentum follows. Another scene. Friends are wavering on a weekend trip. You say, I'm booking the cabin Thursday night. Anyone in by then splits the cost and picks their room. That's it. A clear door. It swings once. People decide, because not deciding now means a smaller slice of something they want. Psychologically, this taps 2 strong levers, scarcity and social proof. When access feels limited, attention sharpens. When a few people lean in, others picture themselves outside the circle, so they step in too. The result isn't pressure, it's clarity. An obvious next move that rewards action now. If you want to use this well, make 3 moves. Name the thing. Make it finite. Make it fair. Name the thing with vivid language, early input, first pass, inside lane. Make it finite with a real cutoff. Tonight, this week, before the meeting starts. And make it fair. No secret backdoors, no fake scarcity, no surprise penalties. Done right, it doesn't feel manipulative. It feels energizing because people can see the edge and choose to step over it. Is it still leadership without authority? Yes, because authority is just one way to organize attention. Momentum is another. When the room is foggy, the person who points at a door and says, this way, right now, becomes the de facto leader, even if their title says intern. But notice this. If every door you point to slams, people stop trusting your bell. So, follow through. Keep the promise. Celebrate the first movers. Let latecomers in later at a different price, a different role, or a different round, so the edge stays real. One more nuance. Put the spotlight on the upside, not the penalty. Be in the first wave lands better than miss out forever. It keeps dignity intact. It keeps the room warm. You don't need a badge to lead. You need a moment that matters, offered once with a real edge and an open hand. Build that moment, then let it ring. If I wanted to hide a diamond, I wouldn't bury it. I'd pour a bucket of glitter on the table, let it blind you and say, look, I'm being honest. That's the fake transparency exploit. It dresses up like openness, talks a big game about accountability, then quietly keeps the one thing that matters behind its back. You've seen it. The company publishes a massive data trove, glossy dashboards, endless footnotes, yet the key number you actually need never shows up. The influencer starts with full transparency, gives a touching backstory, then races past the part where the money changes hands. The friend who overshares every detail of their drama except the part that explains why it keeps happening. It's misdirection with a halo, a spotlight that turns into smoke. So how do you spot it? Start with this gut check. Real transparency makes confusion go down. Fake transparency makes confusion go up. If you walk away with more fog than clarity, you're being played. Listen for volume instead of substance. Honest people give receipts, not riddles. They'll say the exact cost, the exact timeline, the exact decision maker. Fakers bury you in context, anecdotes, and we can't disclose specifics. Notice when the story is all motion. New features, fresh committees, bold commitments, yet the one question you asked never gets a clean answer. Also, watch the timing. When transparency shows up only after pressure, it's usually a shield, not a window. If it's real, it's routine. If it's fake, it's theatrical. Here's a small test you can run with anyone, anywhere. Ask for the simplest, most consequential thing. Not everything, just the one proof, one plain number, one signed decision, one raw, unedited log. If the response is immediate and clear, that's transparency. If you get a parade, summaries, slides, soothing words, then you've met the exploit. And here's the twist. The more someone repeats the word transparency, the less you should trust it. People with real openness don't need the spell they show you, then shut up. So how do you defend yourself? Slow the pace. Refuse the flood. Say, hold on, what's the point of all this? Ask, what would change if this were false? Ask, what's missing that would make this risky for you to share? Notice how quickly the room gets quiet when the real stake appears. Summarize it back. You're saying the launch was delayed because of safety, but you can't show the test results. Is that right? Make them own the gap. And remember, transparency has scope. It's not everything forever. It's the right thing at the right time, to the right people, with the right evidence. Anything else is theatre. The fake transparency exploit feeds on our desire for certainty and our fear of being rude. You're allowed to ask for clarity. You're allowed to ask twice. Trust, but verify. And when the glitter starts flying, keep your eyes on the diamond. Here's the quiet shortcut. Con artists love. They don't argue facts. They recruit loyalty. Say the words, "I'm with you," and watch what happens. Questions soften. Doubt backs off. A door to influence swings wide open. That's the loyalty exploit. Pledge allegiance first, then slip your agenda through while everyone's clapping. Picture a new manager who shows up with charm and big promises. On day one, we're a family here. I'll fight for you, just trust me. People nod, relieved. Meetings feel warmer. The manager starts naming insiders and outsiders. If you ask for details, you get why the suspicion. I thought we were together. And now the trap is set. Because once loyalty is the currency, curiosity looks like betrayal. Psychologically, signaling loyalty creates a feeling of safety, lowers defenses, and makes people more cooperative. So scrutiny fades. Here's what it looks like in everyday life. A friend calls, heated. I need you with me. Don't make me explain everything you care, so you say, of course. Later you learn there was context, a lot of it. But in the moment, the loyalty test made questions feel disloyal. That's the exploit. Not winning the argument, skipping it. Why does this work so well? Our brains love shortcuts. Tribe first, thinking later. Loyalty offers identity, us versus them, which feels fast and safe. And safety, even the illusion of it, quiets the part of you that would normally ask, wait, what exactly are we signing? That's why exploiters front-load loyalty. It flips the order. Bond, then facts. In that sequence, facts arrive handcuffed. Psychologically, when people feel seen and included, they open up. If you frame pushback as disloyal, they shut down before the analysis even begins. So what's the counter? Don't reject loyalty, redefine it. Switch from loyalty to people to loyalty to principles. Try this line: I'm with you, and I'm loyal to the truth we both care about. So I'm going to ask a few questions. Notice thee, and it protects the bond, while making space for clarity. Real loyalty welcomes sunlight. It doesn't fear specifics. Set conditions up front. I'll back this plan if we name the risks, agree on guardrails, and decide how we'll course correct. You're not withholding support. You're making the support sturdy. And here's the twist. Honest actors relax when you do this. Exploiters bristle. Their power depends on speed, on the rush of belonging, on your fear of looking disloyal. Slow the moment down, and the spell weakens. If someone demands blind loyalty, don't argue the demand. Change the frame. I'm in, eyes open. If they push back on the eyes open part, you just got your answer. Loyalty isn't supposed to be a blindfold, it's a light. Aim it at the thing you're about to choose and keep it there. That's how you stay faithful, to people and to the truth, without getting played by the loyalty exploit. Picture your name walking into a room before your body does. It nods at the right people, pulls up a chair, and by the time you arrive, you're already trusted. Sounds like a glitch, but it's just the networking overlap exploit. Here's the simple idea. When the same person hears about you from different pockets of their world, your relevance multiplies. Not louder, not pushier, just present from more than one angle. A line is you and one contact. A triangle is you, plus two people who also know each other. Triangles beat lines. Overlaps make you unavoidable. Start small. Pick a few rooms that already fit you. One might be local, one might be online, one might be niche. Find a connector in each, someone generous, someone curious, someone who already stitches people together. Then create gentle collisions. Comment thoughtfully where they hang out. Share something useful they posted and credit them. Volunteer for a tiny task that helps the whole group, not just you. Now, make the overlap happen. You show up in a panel Q and A, in a community thread, and in a small introduction email, same week, same tone, same core story. That's 3 light touches, in 3 different places, touching the same web of people. Their brains do the math for you. Familiar equals safe. Safe equals opportunity. What do you say when you show up? Keep your story simple enough to repeat. One sentence that explains who you help and how. Don't chase clever, chase clarity. And when you add value, keep it light and fast. A resource you've used, a short note after an event, a signal boost that costs you nothing and gives them visibility. Tiny, repeatable gifts. Worried it's manipulative? It's only shady when you fake relationships or drop names without permission. The ethical version is transparent. You're not pretending to be best friends with anyone. You're just making it easy for people to connect the dots. Say, I saw Priya share this in your group and thought it might help here too. That's honest. That's respectful. That builds trust. Picture this. You meet Maya at a design meetup and Jordan at a breakfast for founders. You later share a concise case study in both of their Slack channels, crediting a lesson you learned from Maya. Jordan sees it, Maya sees it, and they mention you in separate conversations. Your name shows up twice, from 2 trusted voices. You didn't push, you placed. Want a quick start? Choose 2 circles you already like. Find one connector in each. Contribute one useful thing in both within 1 week. Then pause, listen, follow up where there's energy. Repeat that cycle a few times and you'll feel it. The soft click as doors open before you knock. Do this with kindness, consistency, and curiosity, and you won't need to shout. You'll be everywhere that matters. And when that happens, people will swear you're inevitable. Start with a knot that tightens every time someone pulls. That's the trick. If the rules are a maze, the person holding the map wins. You don't need better facts, you need fog. Here's how it works. You state the rule with confidence, then immediately point to an exception. You define a term, then redefine it when it's inconvenient. You cite a policy, then mention a clause that most people miss. Anyone trying to pin you down ends up chasing shifting sand. Picture a dress code that bans distracting outfits. What's distracting? Depends on who's looking, what day it is, and how much trouble they want. You can always say, we enforce the spirit, not the letter. And if someone brings the letter, you waive the spirit. Either way, you're never wrong. The power move is to stack authorities. Say the handbook says one thing, the update says another, the email clarifies it, and the unwritten tradition clears it up. Which one rules? All of them when it helps you. None of them when it doesn't. It's like juggling mirrors. Everyone sees something, no one grabs anything. Want to make it airtight? Bury contradictions in timing. This rule applies on weekdays. That one only after approval. The other one while under review. If they catch a conflict, you nod and say, exactly, that's why we use context. And if they use context, you shrug and point back to the text. Here's the manipulative heart of it. You never debate outcomes. You debate definitions. Is that a violation or a special case? Is this a right or a privilege? You keep the conversation at the border where words blur. People exhaust themselves arguing the shape of a cloud while you keep walking. And when someone finally demands clarity, you give them more rules, more footnotes, more flow charts. You offer to escalate, then appeal to a higher policy that nobody's read. Confusion isn't a mistake, it's a moat. If the drawbridge is made of vague phrases, nobody crosses without the keeper's blessing. Why does it work? Because uncertainty creates hesitation. Hesitation sounds like doubt. Doubt looks like weakness. And the person who sounds certain, even while switching lanes, feels like authority. People don't want to fight a fog. They want a dry path and a yes or no. You give them maybe. Could you use this to dodge accountability? To keep every door open and every exit hidden? You could. That's the seduction. But there's a cost. Confusion breeds resentment. It erodes trust, then loyalty, then competence. If everyone's guessing, nobody's growing. And eventually someone brings a light. They simplify. They write one crisp rule. They say it out loud. And the fog burns off. So if you see this trick in the wild, call it by its name. Ask for a clear definition, then a plain example, then a single authority. Slow the tempo. Anchor the terms. When the map stops shifting, truth has a place to stand. And that knot everyone kept pulling. It loosens the second the rope runs straight. The easiest way to hack a giant isn't with a ladder. It's with a whisper it keeps repeating. Here's the move. Find a feedback loop. Feed it on purpose and let it crown your version of normal. A feedback loop is simple. Input goes in, output comes out, and that output changes the next input. When you nudge that cycle, tiny signals get amplified until they look like reality. Think about your feed. You tap on one kind of post. You linger for a beat, and the algorithm serves you more. Soon, that more becomes your entire world. Same thing in a team. If one behavior keeps getting praised in the weekly recap, people copy it, managers measure it, and then it becomes policy. Your own brain does it too. You track one metric, sleep, reps, minutes, and your attention keeps looping back. What you track becomes what you value, and what you value becomes who you are. So how do you exploit that loop without being a jerk? Start by picking the system that already notices things, an algorithm, a meeting ritual, a scoreboard, your calendar. Then find its sensor. What does it count? Clicks, mentions, examples, names in an email, a sticky note on your fridge. Feed that sensor a steady stream of the signal you want to become normal. Don't go big, go consistent. Small signals every day beat loud signals once. If you want deep work to be normal at your job, create a public ritual that the loop can see, like a short end-of-day note highlighting focused wins. People will start copying the format. Managers will start expecting it. And before long, we protect focus time feels obvious. It wasn't obvious. You fed the loop. Here's the twist. Protect your signal. Remove the noise that argues against it. Mute what drags attention away. Archive the old templates. Change default settings. Defaults are silent megaphones. If the default aligns with your signal, the loop does the heavy lifting for you. A few quick plays, seed algorithms with the content you want more of by saving, sharing, and commenting in clusters. Train the recommender, then let it train you. In a team, circulate artifacts, screenshots, quick clips, micro case studies that make your desired behavior easy to copy. For yourself, set a tiny daily proof. One sentence, one rep, one outreach that stamps your identity. These are breadcrumbs the loop can't ignore. What becomes normal? Whatever gets fed repeatedly, where the system is hungry. Who decides? You do, if you place the right calories in the right mouth of the machine. Use this with care. Loops don't judge, they just grow. They'll grow your best habits and your worst without blinking. Pick one loop. Name its sensor. Feed it the signal you want for 14 days. Watch normal move, then keep feeding it. Ever watch someone bungle a task so badly you felt you had to swoop in, and then you ended up doing the whole thing for them? That's the scarcity of competence exploit. It hides in plain sight. You pretend to be less capable than you are, or you lean hard on the image that you're overwhelmed, until someone more competent steps in. They fix it, they carry the weight, and you, somehow, walk away clean. Why does this work? Because competent people hate dropped balls. They care about outcomes, reputations, deadlines. When something's about to break, they rush in, faster than most folks even notice the crack. The exploit counts on that reflex. It frames competence as scarce, then forces the scarce resource to cover the gap. Maybe you've seen it at work. A teammate forgets the spec, sends a messy draft, shrugs at the bug. Now the launch is at risk. You know how to solve it. You do. Or at home, someone plays the "I'm just not good at cleaning" card, leaves a half-done kitchen, and guess who finishes it before guests arrive? Online, a group project has a volunteer who keeps asking basic questions, then disappears when the real grind starts. The pattern's the same. Feigned confusion, rising stakes, rescue. Here's the twist. The rescuer gets positive reinforcement, relief that the job's done, and the pretender learns that stumbling pays, so it repeats. Each cycle cements the roles. Over time, the competent person becomes the default fixer, burning out, while the pretender conserves energy and even gains leverage. So how do you spot it? Look for mistakes that always happen when accountability is fuzzy, but magically disappear when the pretender's output is linked to a visible outcome. Notice if help turns into handoffs. Notice if "teach me" questions never lead to improvement. And pay attention to timing. Errors that surface right before a deadline are a sign someone wants you to panic and take over. How do you break it? You make competence less scarce by changing the system, not just the person. Set clear ownership. Who is responsible for the result, not just the task? Tie tasks to outcomes that are public and time-stamped, so success and failure are visible. Offer help in ways that don't remove the wheel. Coach, ask guiding questions or pair briefly, then hand it back. Use checklists and templates so effort is teachable, not magical. Rotate critical duties so no one becomes the permanent firefighter. And when the stakes allow, let small consequences land. Natural feedback teaches faster than endless rescue. If you're the one tempted to run the exploit, ask yourself a harder question. What happens to your reputation when people notice? Short term, you might save energy. Long term, trust erodes. And trust is the only shortcut that actually lasts. Competence shouldn't be a trap for the few. Spread it, protect it. And when you feel that tug to fix everything, breathe, then design a system that makes the right thing easier for everyone. That's how this exploit loses its power. Quick confession. The easiest cheat I ever learned required no cheating at all. You've seen it. The hallway badge tap that doesn't quite tap, but the door still opens. The online training completed because you click through slides while answering emails. The group project where one person carries and another smiles at the finish line. No alarms, no questions. And because no one checks, the bare minimum stretches forever. That's the minimum effort exploit. You don't break the rules. You surf the edge of them. Do just enough to pass the filter, then coast on silence. Why does it work so well? Because systems pay attention in spikes and go to sleep in the gaps. Sensors watch the door, not your hand. The form confirms the box, not the work behind it. The deadline checks the timestamp, not the quality. We confuse a signal with proof, and the exploit slips through like water through a crack. Think about the coffee fund at the office. Everyone promises to chip in. A few don't. What happens? Nothing. So they keep not paying. The temporary exception becomes the new normal, and trust erodes one quiet dodge at a time. Is it laziness? Sometimes, but more often, it's about incentives. People steer where friction is lowest. If nobody looks, the path of least resistance becomes a highway. And here's the twist. Once this path exists, even good people get pulled onto it. Not because they're bad, but because the system trained them that the minimum is enough. So how do you shut it down without turning life into a police state? Make the invisible visible. Don't add heavy rules, add tiny lights. Ask for a photo of the finished work, not just a checked box. Rotate who reviews deliverables, so no one coasts under one person's blind spot. Use random spot checks with a light touch, like a quick 2-minute audit that says, "We're awake." People rise to visible standards, shorten the loop. If the only feedback comes at the end of the month, the exploit rides for 4 weeks. Add midpoints, a quick demo halfway, a 5-sentence summary after the meeting, a peer sign-off before the final submit. Small nudges, fast cycles. Ask one question deeper. When the answer is done, ask, "Show me how." When the badge opens the door, make sure the system logs which badge and displays it briefly. So awareness follows action, not punishment, presence. And remember the human part. Celebrate full effort. Name it. People copy what gets praised. When you reward the person who goes the extra inch, the minimum loses its glamour. Because the most powerful exploits aren't loud. They're quiet. They live in the space where nobody looks. Shine a little light there and the trick evaporates. Not with fear, with clarity, not with force, with attention. And just like that, the minimum effort exploit stops stretching into forever. Ever walked into a room where every head is nodding in the same rhythm and your gut whispers, "This feels staged"? Here's the trick. When a few loud voices announce, "We all agree," your brain hears safety, not scrutiny. It's like someone turning on a smoke machine, so the alarms don't see the flame. The room looks full of support, but it's fog, not fire. This is the fake consensus exploit. It's simple. Create the illusion that a view is already the default, then ride the pressure people feel to fit in. In a group chat, 3 quick "yeah, exactly" replies from the same click can make silence feel like agreement. In a meeting, 2 confident people say, "Everyone's on board," and suddenly the quiet ones start doubting themselves instead of the claim. Psychologically, our minds lean on social proof as a shortcut to safety. If the crowd's there, the thinking must be done. So fake agreement spreads faster than real understanding. But here's the reframe. It's not about being louder than a lie. It's about being clearer than the fog. Clarity beats volume every time. So how do you puncture it? Calmly, without setting the room on fire. Try this. Name the move, not the person. Say, "I'm hearing strong support being signalled. Before we lock in, can we check who explicitly agrees and why?" That single question does 3 things. It slows the momentum, it separates headcount from reasons, and it invites independent thought. Ask for independence, not just opinions. If you agree, share one reason that's yours. When answers start to repeat, you'll hear the copy-paste effect. And here's the twist. Repetition isn't proof, it's just louder echo. Zoom in on the word "we." Who's we exactly? If "we" can't be named, it's not a consensus, it's a costume. Leave a beat, a real pause. Silence breaks the spell because it gives people room to think. And thinking doesn't clap on command. Offer a small alternative. Another view worth testing is, you're not declaring war, you're reopening the door. Real consensus welcomes better ideas. Fake consensus fears them. And if someone pushes, "Come on, everyone agrees," ground your voice and try this line. "I care that we get this right, not that we rush to look aligned." It's steady, not combative. It reminds the room that alignment without accuracy is just synchronized confusion. Here's the simple image to keep. A hall of mirrors makes one person look like many. When you ask for names, reasons, and independence, you tilt the mirrors. The reflections vanish. You're left with the actual head count and the actual strength of the idea. In the end, real agreement survives daylight. It can explain itself. It invites questions. It doesn't need speed or smoke or a chorus of "same." When you choose clarity over the crowd, you don't just protect your decisions, you protect your voice, your values, your truth. Don't chase the noise. Cut through the fog of the fake consensus exploit. Here's a weird truth. The spotlight pays out more than the scoreboard. You can be right in the dark and still lose to someone who's wrong in the light. That stings, but it also reveals a lever most people ignore. Call it the visibility exploit. Being seen often beats being correct. Think about a meeting you've sat through. One person tosses a half-built idea onto the table. It's not perfect. It's not even close. But now the room is orbiting their words. Another person has the airtight solution, polished and safe. sitting in their head. Who gets the follow-up emails, the invites, the credit? The one who stepped into the light. Psychologically, this makes sense. Our brains tend to trust what we see repeatedly. Familiar feels true. Exposure builds comfort. It's not fair, but it is human. And if you understand that, you can stop waiting for the perfect moment and start stacking tiny touch points that make you familiar, memorable, and trusted. So how do you use this without becoming loud and hollow? First, ship small and ship often. A messy draft that exists beats a flawless draft nobody sees. Post the sketch, share the outline, float the question. Imperfect, public attempts signal motion. Motion creates curiosity. Second, narrate your thinking. Not the glossy version, the real one. Here's what I'm trying. Here's what confused me. Here's what changed my mind. That honesty builds trust fast because people can follow the trail. They see the work, not just the result. And here's the twist. Visibility isn't just shouting your opinion. It's showing up where decisions are made. Speak early instead of only at the end. Ask a clarifying question out loud. Summarize what the group just decided in one clear sentence. It's simple, but it plants your flag. What about being wrong? You will be. Everyone is. The difference is what happens next. Correct quickly, publicly, and without drama. That move does two things at once. It keeps you visible, and it proves you care about truth more than ego. Ironically, owning small mistakes makes you look more credible, not less. Picture a creator who posts one rough piece every day versus a perfectionist who waits for the masterpiece. A month later, who feels familiar? Who got feedback early and improved faster? Who's top of mind when an opportunity pops up? The Daily Poster didn't game the system. They worked with how attention actually behaves. So no, it's not about being the loudest. It's about being consistently present, findably helpful, and quick to adjust. Not hiding until you're certain, but stepping forward while you're learning. Because the system we live in rewards the person on stage, not the silent expert in the back row. Step into the light, share the process, fix it out loud, and keep showing up. Use the visibility exploit, ethically, consistently, boldly. Be seen, then be right. That's how you win. Feel that tug behind your ribs? That's someone fishing for votes with a tear. The sympathy vote exploit works because our brains move faster than our logic. Someone shares a sad story, a heavy sigh, a shaky voice, and boom. Your heart leans forward while your questions fall back. It's not evil by itself. Empathy is human. But here's the twist. When pity replaces proof, the decision gets hijacked. Picture a meeting. One person says, "I've been up all night on this proposal and I'm exhausted. Please don't tear it apart." Suddenly, critiquing the proposal feels cruel, even if the idea has holes big enough to walk through. Or think about a debate where one side drops a heartbreaking anecdote. You feel their pain, and without noticing, you start treating their story as evidence. That's the exploit. Turn pity into permission. Trade emotion for conclusions. How does it sneak in? First, they frame themselves or their cause as the injured party. Then they blur the lines. Supporting them equals being kind. Questioning them equals being cold. Next, they push for speed. Quick vote, quick share, quick outrage. Finally, they attach a penalty. If you resist, you're labelled heartless. Not just wrong, cruel. Ask yourself, what's the claim hiding inside the story? If we remove the tears, what remains? Do the numbers, the trade-offs, the downstream effects still make sense? Would we choose the same path if the storyteller were a stranger? These questions act like seat belts. They don't stop the ride, they stop the ejection. Here's a simple move you can use in the moment. Say, I hear the pain and it matters. For the decision, let's separate the story from the evidence. Then bring compassion back in for how we deliver the outcome. That line keeps kindness on the table while anchoring the call to facts. You're not cold, you're clear. Remember, a single haunting example can distort scale. One moving case can drown out 1,000 quiet ones. When you feel your chest clench, pause. Ask, what would count as proof if I felt nothing right now? That's your anchor. And this part's important. Rejecting the exploit doesn't mean rejecting people. You can offer help, support, and real care while still saying the policy needs evidence, the product needs testing, the claim needs verification, compassion in the process, rigor in the decision. Systems break when feelings become shortcuts. Tribes reward the loudest pain, the heaviest sigh, the most dramatic wound. But strong communities do something braver. They hold space for hurt, and they still ask for facts. So keep your heart open and keep your guard up. Listen fully, breathe, then look for the backbone of the argument. If it's there, great. If not, don't hand over your vote to a trembling voice. Vote for evidence, then show kindness in how you deliver it. That way, pity can move us to care without letting it decide what's true. You don't start with the vault, you start with the squeaky hinge. Here's the quiet trick that gets loud results. Rules don't usually break, they stretch first. Push them a little, right where they're soft, and the whole frame learns a new shape. That's the rule bender exploit. Pick a rule that looks harmless on paper but gets in the way in practice. Something small, something you can defend with a straight face. Then bend it in daylight, not in the shadows. When people can see the intent, they're more likely to shrug and say, well, fine. That shrug is your opening. Now, give the bend a reason. Make it about service, speed, or safety. I skipped the form because the client was waiting. I stayed past the limit to finish the fix. That story does two jobs. It justifies the exception, and it teaches everyone listening that this exception has a purpose. That's important, because once a reason gets repeated, the exception becomes routine. Next move, repeat at a slow drip. Not every day, just often enough that it feels familiar. Familiarity is social camouflage. When a small bend shows up again and again, the system stops flinching. People start saying, that's just how we do it. That's the moment when the tiny bend turns into a tiny rule of its own. Ready for the step up? Widen the bend, but keep the frame. Same reason, slightly bigger move. You brought an unofficial tool that saved an hour. Now it's a small suite. Security grumbles, but your team delivers twice as fast, and leadership likes results. The smallest winners buy the biggest permission. Here's the twist. Don't go alone. Get one or two allies to adopt the same exception. When more than one person bends the same place, rollback gets expensive. The system would rather rewrite the rule than fight a dozen small battles. That's how "we tried this once" turns into "we've always done it this way." Need cover? Use ambiguity. Policies hide words like discretion, urgent, pilot. Those words are doors. Walk through them. Ask for a trial, not a change. Trials are less scary, so they get a yes. A yes to a trial is really a yes to precedent. But notice this, every bend moves two things, the rule and your reputation. If you push for selfish gain, you pay in trust. If you bend to remove nonsense and help the work, you earn it back with interest. That's the ethical line. Cross it, and the system will snap, and it'll snap on you. So choose the first bend carefully. Make it small, visible, useful. Give it a story people want to repeat. Share it with allies. Turn the trial into tradition. Then, when the big door needs to open, you won't have to kick it. It'll swing, because it's already learned how. The rule didn't fail. It evolved, and you guided the evolution. Use that power to fix what's broken, never to break what works. Start a storm, sell the umbrella. That's the move. Stir just enough chaos that everyone feels a wobble. Then step in as the calm voice, the fixer, the one with the map. People remember the hand that steadied them. They lean on it. They follow it. Here's how it plays out. You seed uncertainty. Not a disaster, just friction. A deadline shifts. The plan suddenly has gaps. The room gets confused about who's doing what. While everyone scrambles, you already have a clear path in your pocket. You outline steps, assign roles, set the pace. And when the dust settles, you're not just helpful, you're necessary. Why does it work? Because when stakes feel high, brains crave order. In chaos, we outsource thinking to whoever sounds confident, whoever brings a simple, doable next step. It's not logic, it's biology. Stress narrows choices, and the loudest ladder out looks like truth. Picture a team stand up. The roadmap is fuzzy, tension rising. You ask a pointed question, then another, and let the room trip over mismatched answers. Silence. You wait a beat. Then you summarize the mess, slice it into 3 clean steps, and volunteer to lead the first one. Relief spreads. Heads nod. Suddenly you're the hub. Or think of a launch day. Too many tools, not enough clarity. You spotlight the bottleneck, call it out, and offer a 1-page playbook. People rally. They stop arguing and start moving. And the memory that sticks is simple. When it got rough, you brought a lifeline. But here's the twist. Push too far and the room turns on you. Real chaos breaks trust. You want controlled turbulence, not a crash. A small shake, not an earthquake. The goal isn't damage, it's contrast. Show the pain of disorder just long enough that your solution feels like oxygen. Want it cleaner, even ethical? Use revealed complexity. Ask questions that expose hidden risks, missing owners, ambiguous success. You didn't create the chaos, you surfaced it, then you reduce it. You make the complicated simple, the blurry clear, the slow fast. You become the person who turns noise into signal. How do you hold that power without becoming a villain? Pair the exploit with transparency. Name what you're doing. This feels chaotic. I'll simplify it. Share credit when it works. Build others up so the system grows more resilient. Because real power isn't being the only firefighter. It's teaching the whole block to spot smoke. Can you feel the line between manipulation and mastery? If you're crossing it, you'll know. It'll taste like control. If you're honoring it, it'll feel like service. It'll feel like leadership. Create just enough chaos to make order matter. Then be the one who delivers it fast. And when everyone can breathe again, leave them stronger than you found them. That's the quiet exploit. That's how you break the system, by fixing it better than it fixes itself. Imagine a world where promotions are cheaper than progress. Sounds wild, right? But that's the credit inflation exploit. Flood the system with recognition and people stop checking for results. Here's how it works. Every system runs on signals. Titles, certifications, awards, likes, shout-outs. When those signals are scarce, they point to real work. When they're printed like coupons, the signal gets loud, the truth gets quiet. And someone always learns to play the volume knob. Grade a little easier, hand out a few more partner labels, slap senior on a business card, and watch the room lean in. The badge feels like proof. The title sounds like competence. The applause looks like demand. But notice this. None of that builds a bridge, ships a product, or solves a customer's pain. So why does it spread? Because recognition is fast, results are slow. Recognition is visible, results are messy. And our brains love easy stories. She's award-winning. He has a prestigious title. It's clean. It's shiny. It's comforting. That's the exploit. Swap the hard grind of outcomes for the soft glow of status, and most people won't push back. Until the bill arrives, trust erodes first. When everyone's a leader, the word leader means less. When every launch is a record, records stop mattering. The honest operators fall behind because they won't play dress-up. The system bloats with middle layers to verify what used to be obvious. You get a louder scoreboard and a weaker game. You can feel it in hiring. Resumes get longer, proof gets shorter. You can feel it in education. More honours, more distinctions, less mastery. You can feel it in content. Bigger follower counts, thinner insight. The pattern rhymes across fields because the mechanism is the same. Counterfeit signal outpaces authentic substance. So how do you protect yourself? Ask for one thing: receipts. Not the fancy deck, the tidy narrative, the buzzwords, the trail of cause and effect. What changed? For whom? By how much? If someone claims expertise, look for decisions they owned and consequences they carried. If a team claims momentum, find the customer who would miss them if they vanished. Fewer slogans, more stories with a before and after. And if you're tempted to run the exploit yourself, take a breath. Recognition feels like credit, but it functions like debt. You borrow trust from the future, and the interest rate is brutal. Every inflated claim sets a bar you'll have to clear in daylight. Every shortcut attracts people who love the shortcut more than the mission. Here's the sane move. Choose one metric that mirrors reality, the thing your work actually changes, and make that your North Star. Tie recognition to it, slowly. Celebrate quiet competence. Reward the habit of showing, not telling. Build your own small circle that values receipts over ribbons, substance over sparkle. Print less credit, make more results. Let reality do the scoring. Imagine a magician who loses your wallet, then earns a standing ovation for finding it in your shoe. Clever, right? Except it was never lost. That's the manufactured crisis exploit. Spark panic, then pose as the only calm solution. Here's the move in plain terms. Someone creates, exaggerates, or cleverly frames a problem. Tension rises. Options shrink. And like a hero walking through smoke, they announce, "Good news, I can fix this." When they end the fire they started, they don't look suspicious. They look indispensable. Why does it work? 3 levers: fear, urgency, and authority. Fear narrows our attention to the loudest problem. Urgency pushes us to trade good judgment for fast relief. Authority, real or just performed, tells our brains, follow the person with the clipboard and the confident voice. Mix those together, and people will accept a worse plan today to escape a felt danger now. What does it look like in real life? A manager discovers a last-minute crisis before a big meeting, then demands everyone stays late and thanks them for saving the client. A politician blocks a routine fix for months, then passes a rushed version and takes a victory lap. A friend stirs drama in a group chat, then offers to mediate, and suddenly they're the trusted centre of every decision. Listen for the telltale beats. Sudden panic with one narrow path. Vague origins. Lots of something happened, little here's how. Moving goalposts so the problem never quite ends. Praise for obedience, punishment for independent fixes. And here's the twist. The solution often increases your dependence on the solver. So how do you break the spell? Slow the tempo. Ask clear, boring questions that smoke out the source. What exactly changed? When did we first see it? What are 2 other ways to solve it? What happens if we wait 20 minutes? Panic hates specifics. Separate the problem from the person. If the same name keeps showing up at both the start and end of every fire, that's not coincidence. That's a pattern. Treat credentials differently from credibility. People earn trust by preventing flare-ups, sharing information, and building others' capacity to act without them. Widen your options. Invite a second opinion. Consider the cost of doing nothing for a short window. Real emergencies survive scrutiny. Manufactured ones dissolve when you turn on the lights. And keep receipts, a simple record of claims, deadlines, and outcomes. Patterns reveal themselves when you can point to a timeline instead of a feeling. Most of all, reward calm stewardship, not chaos management. A true leader teaches you how to keep the kitchen from catching fire. An exploiter keeps the matches near the stove, then hands you a bucket. The manufactured crisis exploit feeds on your adrenaline and your relief, the jolt, then the hug. When you slow down, ask for clarity and keep your options open. The trick stops landing. Fires stop being stages. And the person who keeps bringing smoke, they stop looking like a savior. They look like the source. The sharpest move in a room is the one nobody sees you make. There's a way to steer decisions without ever planting your flag on the hill. Think of it as leading by echo, not by megaphone. I call it the Proxy leader exploit. Speak through others so the choice feels like it came from them, not you. Picture a team meeting. You want to halt a bloated project and shift to a faster experiment. If you push, people dig in. So the day before, you chat with Maya, the person everyone trusts for clean logic. You ask questions, share a crisp story from a past win, and let the idea sit. In the meeting, Maya raises the option as a curiosity, not a crusade. Your manager bites, momentum turns, you never grandstand. You just ask one clarifying question, then go quiet. Why does this work? Psychologically, people support what they help create. Ownership softens resistance, and a familiar messenger calms egos. When the idea arrives in a voice they already trust, it feels safe, fair, and reasonable. That lowers defenses and opens the door to a better choice. Here's the twist. This isn't about manipulation. It's about removing your ego as the obstacle, so the best idea stands on its own feet. You're not dodging responsibility. You're designing the path of least resistance for progress. The shift is subtle, not command and control, but influence and design. That reframe changes the whole dynamic. How do you pull it off cleanly? First, pick a proxy who genuinely benefits if the idea succeeds. They'll carry it with natural energy, not as a favor. Second, give them a story, not a script, a small proof that's easy to retell in their tone. Third, show up in the meeting with questions, not declarations. Questions invite oxygen. Declarations spark heat. Finally, step back early so the idea bonds with the room, not with your name. Another everyday scene. Your friend group can't agree on where to eat. You know a tiny spot that solves everyone's budget and vibe. You float it to Sarah, the peacemaker, with one line. It's quick, cheap, and the veggie dish slaps. She pitches it, Mark laughs, the group nods. Decision made, no wrangling, no credit needed, quiet power. There's a risk, of course. If you use this to dodge accountability, people feel it. Trust thins, so keep your intent clean. Give public credit later, even if your fingerprints were invisible at the start. When the move works, spotlight your proxy. That generosity compounds. People become willing co-authors the next time you seed an idea. Psychologically, that pattern builds safety and cooperation across the group. Lead with less volume and more design. When you don't need your name on every win, you get more wins. That's the quiet strength of the proxy leader exploit. Use it to make the right ideas inevitable. Picture your past as a crowded airport and your memory as the gate agent deciding who boards. Some moments glide through, others get turned away with a polite smile. That's not an accident. It's an exploit hiding in plain sight. Memory isn't a camera, it's an editor. It cuts, it crops, it adds music. And here's the twist. Every time you retell a moment, the edit gets a little bolder. So if you choose your cuts wisely, you don't just remember differently. You live with a different script. Think about the last time you told someone about a tough week. Did you lead with the one thing that went wrong? Or the moment you solved something tricky and kept going? Both are true. But whichever you opened with became the headline. That headline shapes how you feel, what you try next, and how other people see you. This is the selective memory exploit. Choose which true moments you feature, and you quietly rewrite history to your advantage. Not a lie, a lens. You're picking the angle that shows your strength, your growth, your grit. How do you use it without drifting into denial? Start by tagging your moments. When something goes well, label it fast. Proof that I keep promises, proof that I can learn fast, proof that I stay calm when it's messy. Say it out loud, even if it feels silly. Your brain listens. When something goes badly, add one more sentence. And here's what I learned. This doesn't erase the pain, it anchors it. Now that memory becomes raw material, not a weight. You didn't fail, you harvested data. Next, keep a tiny highlight reel ready. 3 wins from the last season of your life. Small is fine. The day you showed up when you didn't want to, the moment you apologized quickly, the extra mile no one saw. Tell those stories twice as often as you tell the ones that drain you, and make a compact error log. 1 or 2 mistakes you own plus the fix. This is your reality check. It keeps your edit honest, so you can stand in the mirror and still like the person looking back. When you retell anything, use verbs of agency. I chose, I learned, I started. Those words move your story from passive to active, and your nervous system feels the difference. Worried this is just spin? Ask yourself a simple question. Is it true? If it's true, feature it. If it's not, cut it. The goal isn't to trick anyone, it's to stop letting the loudest memory run your life. Tonight, do a quick scan of your day. Pick one moment you want to remember bigger, and one you want to remember kinder. Tag them, retell them. Let that be the version that boards your flight. Because your past isn't a prison. It's an edit bay, and you're the head editor. Use that power, wisely, clearly, for your advantage. Picture a crowded room, the lights flicker, and someone whispers, "Look over there." And suddenly everyone points in the same direction while the whisperer slips into the shadows. That's the move. That's the manufactured enemy exploit. Here's how it works. When people might notice your mistakes, your power, or your profits, you invent a villain. Not a precise, measurable opponent, a fuzzy, everywhere threat. You give it a name, a face if you can, and you crank the volume. Fear tightens the group. Anger glues it together. And while everyone bonds over the shared fight, you get cover to operate. Why does it land so hard? Because unity feels good. It feels righteous. It gives us a story that says, We're the good ones, they're the bad ones, and if we stand together, we'll win. That story is emotional superglue. It patches over cracks that would otherwise show. Watch the steps. First, choose a target that can't easily answer back. It could be a vague outsider, a faceless department, a nameless competitor, some shadowy they. Then flood the zone with warning lights, urgent words, moral language. The threat is growing, it's everywhere, it's at your door. Next, draw the line, with us or against us. Questions become disloyalty. Doubt becomes betrayal. Finally, ride the wave. While everyone's eyes lock on the enemy, you shift budgets, bury bad news or cement control. You've seen it. A company hits a slump and blames mysterious supply chain saboteurs instead of bad forecasting. A politician points to an amorphous outsider instead of broken policy. A leader in a group says, critics are haters, they're out to get us, so fall in line. Different costumes, same trick. So how do you spot it without getting swept up? Listen for vagueness dressed as certainty. If the claims are loud, but the details are foggy, pause. Notice moving targets. When the enemy keeps changing shape, just enough to fit every setback, pause. Track incentives. Who benefits if you stop asking questions and start chanting slogans? And here's the quiet tell. Does the proposed solution always require more power for the person sounding the alarm? What do you do in the moment? Slow the pulse. Ask for receipts, not vibes. What's the specific action this enemy took? On what date with what outcome? Separate issues. Is there a real problem here? And is the named villain actually tied to it or just convenient? Compare timelines. Did the threat magically appear right when scrutiny rose? Invite perspective. One honest outsider can pop the bubble. The goal isn't to be cynical, it's to be clear. Real threats exist. They have edges, data, and limits. Manufactured enemies are smoke that smells like urgency and burns your eyes just long enough to make you miss the hands doing the trick. So when the whisper comes, look over there. Look, but then glance back at the whisperer. That's where the truth usually is. Steal the recipe. Don't touch the flavor. That's the move. Not stealing ideas, not copying someone's soul, just grabbing the structure that already works, then turning the lights up on your voice until it looks brand new. Here's the exploit in plain terms. Copy first, then outshine. Most people try to invent from zero, and they burn time-wrestling blank pages. When you copy the bones, the order, the beats, the scaffolding, you skip the stumbles and jump straight to performance. And here's the twist. To everyone else, your twist looks like pure originality because their brains are tuned to what's familiar, and a small spark on top pops like fireworks. Psychologically, familiarity creates safety. Once people feel steady, your novelty lands harder because the brain stops reacting to what it's seen on repeat and perks up at the contrast. That's called habituation, and it's exactly why a tiny change can feel huge to an audience. Let's put it on the ground. A new hire, Mia, has to present a quarterly update. She could build a whole deck from scratch and hope it resonates. Instead, she grabs last year's highest rated presentation, mirrors the outline, keeps the pacing. Same opening tension, same three-part structure, same clean close. Then she adds one signature turn, a one-sentence promise that frames the whole thing, what changed for the customer and why it matters now. Same skeleton, new heartbeat. The room hears it and thinks, this feels tight. It feels clear. And that line, that new heartbeat, makes it feel original. Or picture a cafe owner. They study the layout of a rival's menu board that people breeze through without squinting. Copy the layout, fonts, spacing, flow. Then outshine with names that make you smile, and a single unexpected category like 5-minute favourites so the lunch rush moves faster. Familiar structure, fresh twist. It reads as yours. Why does this work so well? Our minds crave two things at once: safety and surprise. Familiar order lowers defences, so people actually hear you. A controlled reveal lifts attention, so they remember you. You don't need to shock the system. You need to guide it, then nudge it. First calm, then spark. That's the formula that turns a copied pattern into a unique performance, because the perceived originality lives in the contrast, not the chaos. So how do you run it without feeling gross? Copy structure, not sentences. Mirror the outline, the transitions, the flow. Change one lever that matters: tone, metaphor, pacing, the order of reveals. Add one signature: your question, your promise, your rule of thumb. Make it yours in a single breath, and when credit is due, give it. Integrity isn't a footnote. It's part of your shine. It's not theft. It's training wheels for originality. It's not formula over art. It's using a proven pattern so your art actually lands. When you copy the bones and upgrade the life inside them, you look bold, not borrowed. That's the Copy-and-Outshine Exploit. Familiar on the outside, unmistakably you where it counts. What's the recipe you'll steal tonight so your flavour can finally take over tomorrow? By the time the smoke alarm rings, somebody's already shouting where the fire began. That shout is the frame, and once people hear it, they see the whole scene through it. Here's the move. You rewrite the story before anyone else can tell it, and your version becomes the map everyone uses. Not because it's loud, but because it's first, simple, and emotionally sticky. We're hungry for a clean line. Who, why, what now? The first clean line we hear feels like the truth, even when the facts are still walking to the stage. Think about a playground scuffle, a messy breakup, a company outage, a sudden headline. Whoever speaks first doesn't just report events. They define the roles, they name the stakes, they cast the motive. And now, every update sounds like a footnote to their narrative. So how do you pull it off without playing dirty? Start with one sharp sentence that everyone can repeat without notes. Make it short enough to fit in a breath. Place the core motive in it, not the technical detail. Then anchor a timeline that feels inevitable, not chaotic. We saw a pattern, we moved fast, we protected our people. Notice the rhythm. Cause, action, protection. It lands because it answers fear. And here's the twist. You don't have to lie to use this. In fact, lies break under pressure. What you need is a true center that you elevate. Tell the truth with a spotlight, not with a spreadsheet. People remember the light, not the wiring. Picture a startup with systems failing. If silence wins those first minutes, the story becomes incompetence and panic. If the team speaks fast, we isolated an attack. We prioritized safety. Here's how we're restoring service. Suddenly the same mess gets read as vigilance and resilience. Same facts, different frame. The story shapes the meaning. What about when you're on defense? Claim the verbs that place you in motion. I reported it. I made amends. I set a new standard. Own the action so others can't assign it for you. And when someone tries to pin a label on you, lazy, reckless, selfish, counter with a larger identity that makes their label feel too small. I'm the person who shows up, especially when it's hard. That's not dodging. That's reframing the camera so the scene makes sense. Will people try to hijack your version? Sure, that's why speed matters. That's why clarity matters. And that's why repetition, calm, steady, confident, locks it in. The brain trusts what it hears often, especially under stress. Say the same true line 3 different ways across a few moments, and you make it stick. Fill the silence, name the roles, cast the motive. Keep it simple, human, and repeatable. Do it early, and the narrative doesn't just describe reality, it bends it. And once it bends, it's hard to unbend. That's the power of a rewrite made in the first breath. Ever notice how some people carry a moral flashlight that only turns on when a camera does? That's the selective morality exploit. It looks like virtue, it sounds like virtue, but it only shows up when it's safe, profitable, or public. The rest of the time, it's conveniently complicated. Here's how it works. Someone declares a bold principle, honesty, fairness, care, then quietly edits the fine print when the principle points back at them. They slam a rival for cutting corners, then call their own shortcut just being practical. They post a soaring thread about accountability after they've been caught, not before. The speech becomes a shield. Reputation stays shiny. Consequences slide off. Why is this so powerful? Because most of us track moments, not patterns. We remember the one big apology, the well-lit donation, the tearful interview. We don't always remember the dozen quiet choices that led there. Add in the halo effect. Once someone looks good, our brains fill in the blanks, and the exploit sails right through. Think about a company that brags about sustainability when it saves money, then buries the data when it costs them. Or a friend who demands transparency from everyone else, but texts you, "Let's keep this between us," when the truth would sting. Or the leader who says, "We value respect," then laughs along when the room turns mean. Each time the rule bends around the person holding the mic. So how do you spot it? Look for timing. Do their morals appear only when there's a tension? Look for symmetry. Do they apply the same rule to allies and to themselves? Look for language. Lots of talk about optics, not impact. What it looks like, not what it does. And watch for emergency exits. This is different. You don't understand the context, and we're all human, offered every time the standard would actually cost them. What do you do when you see it? Ask for the rule once clearly, then flip it. Would this standard hold if the roles were reversed? If they were small and the other side was powerful? If nobody ever found out? Slow down before you clap. Consistency needs time to reveal itself. Check the pattern, not the pitch. And reward the boring kind of integrity, the kind that doesn't trend but keeps its word in the quiet. Here's the twist. We're all tempted to run this exploit. Reputation is addictive. Praise feels like oxygen. And when fear kicks in, it whispers, "Just this once?" That's when you write your rule in permanent ink. One line you won't cross, even if it costs you money, status, the approval of your tribe. That's not performative. That's courage. Will it be easy? No. Will it be worth it? Always. Systems crack when standards shift with the spotlight. They heal when people keep theirs in the dark. Close the loophole. Retire the flashlight. Choose the rule you'll keep when no one claps. And let that be your reputation. Here's a trick thieves and magicians share. They control what you look at, and once your eyes lock, they've already won. Metrics do the same thing. They say, "Look here," views, likes, dollars, steps. And the second you accept their scoreboard, you start playing their game. But there's an exploit. Hide the real metrics, then decide what winning means. When you choose the scoreboard, you change the behavior. Psychologically, the measure you make visible becomes the habit you feed, which is why picking a better measure quietly rewires what you chase. Here's what it looks like in real life. A designer turns off like counts, mutes follower numbers, and buries sales dashboards behind 2 logins. What's visible, right on the home screen, are 3 numbers. Hours spent on craft this week, number of thoughtful responses from real humans, and 1 small experiment shipped. That's it. Suddenly the urge to check a feed fades. The attention slides back to work that compounds. They're still aware of revenue and reach, but those are back of house. Front of house, it's depth, resonance, and iteration. Another one. Someone trying to get fit shoves the scale into a closet. Front and center, they keep a calendar, and each day gets 1 mark if they move their body. 1 mark if they eat in a way that leaves them proud, and 1 mark if they sleep like they care about tomorrow. 3 marks. Maybe not perfect, but steady. And here's the twist. Motivation sticks around because the scoreboard rewards behavior they control. The scale, with its morning mood swings, stops running the show. This isn't ignoring data. It's deciding which data shapes you. Not less information, but better information. Not the loudest metric, the truest one. That reframe matters because visible numbers pull on our attention like gravity. When you flip what's visible, you flip the orbit. You'll notice something else. When the public scoreboard goes quiet, shame and performative pressure drop. That creates a sense of safety, the kind that lets you try, learn, and keep going without feeling like every move is a referendum on your worth. And when effort gets tracked and rewarded, the brain starts pairing progress with action you can repeat tomorrow. That's how consistency sneaks in. Simple, repeatable wins that you can actually control. So ask yourself, what are the 3 numbers you want your day to answer to? What would change if success meant 1 brave outreach, not 1 viral spike? What if your metric fit the person you're becoming, not the person you're afraid of disappointing? Keep the external metrics somewhere, sure, just not on the front page of your life. Put your real scoreboard where your eyes land first. Make it boring. Make it repeatable. Make it yours. Because the numbers you hide stop hijacking your focus. And the numbers you show start shaping your future. Hide the real metrics. Choose the game. That's the hidden metrics exploit. Picture this. You walk on stage, the seats look empty. Then a spotlight flips on, a cheer rolls in, and suddenly the room feels full. Did the crowd arrive, or did the lighting do the heavy lifting? That's the quiet trick behind algorithms. They reward what looks hot, long before it actually is. So your job isn't to be famous. It's to manufacture that first spark of heat. Start with the first breath. Open strong, then cut tighter. Say 1 clear promise in the first few seconds. Tease the payoff and make it feel urgent. Curiosity is lighter fluid. Show a glimpse of the ending up front, then pull back. It feels like magic, but it's just a reset for the brain. Now, the part most people skip. Early signals. Think click, watch, talk. If the system sees a healthy click-through, it tests you wider. If people stick around, it keeps pushing. If they talk back, it starts to believe. So stack the deck. Seed a small circle who'll open fast, watch fully, and comment first. Not spam, not bots. Real people with real reactions. You're priming the pump, not poisoning the well. Then build a comment storm. Ask a question that invites a split answer, not a yes or no. Which do you hate more, X or Y? Reply to each response like you're texting a friend. Stack your own comments with micro stories, pin one with a hook, and answer quickly so the thread doubles in size. It's not fake popularity, it's visible momentum. The algorithm sees a party and opens the door. Design for retention. Every 15 seconds, add a turn, a reveal, a twist, a visual switch, a new example. When energy dips, drop a mini cliffhanger and pay it off fast. Loop your ending into your beginning so replays feel seamless. One more watch is one more vote. Packaging matters more than you think. Thumbnails, titles, that first line out of your mouth. These are billboards on a busy highway. Make the promise specific, not grand. Speak to one person, not to everyone. When it resonates, it scales anyway. Velocity beats perfection. Publish, learn, adjust. If something spikes, make a related follow-up while the spark is still warm. Thread your pieces together so a viewer who likes one lands on 2, then 3. That's compound attention. That's perceived popularity turning into real demand. Is it a loophole? Not really, it's stagecraft. You set the lights, you cue the crowd, you give the room a reason to lean in. And once the system believes you're hot, it hands you the mic and the room fills itself. Imagine you're walking past a parade you didn't plan. The music swells and you slip in step with the drums. Suddenly the cheers feel like they're for you. That's the trend hijack. Borrowed relevance, perfect timing, and the crowd already facing your way. So how do you jump in without looking like a crasher? Start with ears, not ego. Trends are signals. Sounds, phrases, headlines, tiny cultural winks. Listen for what people are already repeating, then ask, where does my voice fit without forcing it? If it's a stretch, it'll feel like a costume. If it's true to you, it'll fit like your favorite hoodie. Timing beats originality when a wave is rising. You don't need the first word, you need the right one at the right moment. Think of a trend like a moving train. You don't redesign the engine mid-ride. You grab the rail, swing in, and find your seat. The original take can come later. The timed take gets you on board now. Now, give it a twist that's unmistakably yours, not louder, sharper. If everyone's using the same sound, swap the context. If the meme is visual, flip the angle. And here's the twist. Don't explain the joke to the crowd. Explain the value. A metaphor is fun, but the meaning sells. Anchor it. What does this help people feel, do, or decide in the next breath? Keep it simple, keep it short. Trends move like wind across water. Fast, choppy, changing direction. Aim for a clean hook. One strong point, a clear call. If someone can't repeat the heart of it to a friend out loud, trim it. A trend hijack should feel like a wink, not a lecture. Worried about being cringe? Good. That worry is your taste protecting your brand. Do a gut check before you post. Does this sound like me or like me doing an impression? If it's the second one, pivot. Swap the format. Keep the timing. The crowd forgives a miss, but not a fake. Use what I call the doorway test. Before you hit publish, imagine your audience opening a door. In one sentence, what are they walking into? If you can't say it clean, the room's too cluttered. Clear the floor, leave the one thing you want them to see first. Be ready to iterate in real time. If the post pops, ride the echo, reply, remix, add a behind the scenes. If it stalls, don't push it uphill, release it and catch the next one. Momentum is precious. Protect it. And when the trend crests, exit with grace. You borrowed attention. Say thanks and step out before the lights go cold. That exit sets up your next entrance. Why does this work? Because people don't gather around brands. They gather around moments. Hijack the moment. Add unmistakable you. And the borrowed spotlight becomes earned attention. That's the exploit. Not cheating the system, understanding the rhythm, stepping in on the beat, and leaving the crowd wanting more. It never begins with a bang. It starts with a breadcrumb, one tiny detail that feels safe, familiar, true. That's the trick. Slip a small truth into the stream, and suddenly the current carries a much bigger lie. Your brain sees something it recognizes, nods along, and the rest sneaks by with a friendly smile. It's the data leak exploit, not a flood, a drip. Why does it work? Because your mind loves patterns. It spots a real timestamp, a real name, a real line from a real email, and clicks into trust mode. That one verifiable piece becomes a bridge, and the lie walks right across. Now imagine a message pops up in a group chat. There's a screenshot with a real logo and a real internal code. No one can argue with that. Then, attached to it, a bold claim that someone was bribed or a system was rigged. The truth is bait. The LIE is the hook. You can feel the emotional pull. Outrage, fear, relief that someone finally said what you suspected. And that's the opening. When feelings surge, scrutiny drops. The partial truth lowers your guard, then the lie slips under it. Here's the twist. The leak doesn't even need to be fully fake. It can be perfectly real, just incomplete. Crop a message, clip a conversation mid-sentence, share the warm-up, cut the conclusion. When context collapses, lies find oxygen. So how do you spot it? Slow down. That's your shield. If something seems obvious and urgent, breathe. Ask, what's the rest of this? What happened before this snippet and what happened after? Zoom out. If one detail is clear and the rest is fog, that's a sign. Real stories have seams, receipts, provenance you can follow. Ask for the full thread, the full file, the full conversation. If the source keeps shrinking the frame, the truth may be outside it. Swap nouns. If you replace the name or company or group with another, does the claim still make sense? If the argument only works because it targets your favorite villain, it's not evidence, it's theater. Test the anchor. The initial true detail should lead to other true details. If it doesn't chain together, it's not a bridge, it's a lure. And one more thing. Refuse to be the amplifier. The exploit needs a network more than a hacker. If you won't pass it on without context, the circuit breaks. Ask yourself, who benefits if I believe this? Who benefits if I share it? If you can't answer those questions with clarity, hold the line. Because the most dangerous leaks aren't the ones that spill everything. They're the ones that spill just enough. Enough to feel real. Enough to slip past defenses. Enough to make a lie look like a memory. Don't chase the breadcrumb. Follow the loaf. And until you see the whole loaf, keep your hands off the share button. There's a magic trick hiding in plain noise. The louder the complaint, the smaller the lever. Turn up the volume and people hear heat, not handles. It feels like action, like momentum, like you're storming the gates. But underneath, your real power is slipping out the side door. Think about the last time someone went off at work. The schedule is impossible, the tools are broken, the manager never listens. Heads nod, Slack pings light up. For a moment there's a rush, a little hit of finally someone said it. And then what? Meetings go on, nothing moves, because noise isn't a lever. It's a siren. Here's the exploit most folks miss. Complaining loudly disguises how much power you already have. Anger converts into broadcast, not into leverage. The brain even starts to tune out the same gripes on repeat. That's habituation, the tendency to stop reacting to what's familiar. So the louder you get, the less they hear. Watch this play out in a simple scene. Two teammates face the same broken process. One pound the table. This is a joke. How are we supposed to hit targets like this? People sympathize and they freeze. The other takes a breath. I want us to hit targets, so here's a small fix I can own this week, and one decision I need from you. Then they name one concrete ask and one deadline. Now there's a handle to grab. When you name a specific next step, you lower resistance, you focus attention, and you shift the room from heat to movement. Psychologically, that clarity creates safety. People feel where to step, so they step. So what do you do when the urge to broadcast hits? Pause and inventory your levers, not the whole mess, just the slice you can pull today. A lever can be tiny: the email you send, the metric you track, the boundary you set, the yes or no you ask for. Small isn't weak. Small is precise, and precision moves weight. Then frame your power out loud. Replace "this is unfair" with "here's what I need to move this forward." Replace "nobody listens" with "who decides this?" and "when can we talk?" Replace "everything is broken" with "if we change this one step, we save an hour." Notice the shift? From volume to verbs, from blame to levers, from always to next. One more twist. If you do need to vent, separate it from action. Vent in private, move in public. When you come back to the room, you're not carrying heat, you're carrying a handle. And that's what people can grab. In the end, the complaint exploit isn't about shouting until the walls bend. It's about spotting the power you already hold, then applying it cleanly, quietly, repeatedly. You'll look less dramatic. You'll look more dangerous. Because once you stop feeding the noise and start pulling your levers, the system stops feeling immovable and you start feeling like the one who can move it. Ever notice how the loudest applause sometimes lands on the quietest hands? The person on stage smiles, takes a bow, soaks in the glow. And somewhere off stage, someone else is cleaning up the mess that made that moment possible. That's the shortcut to credit. It looks like cleverness. It feels like speed, but there's a hidden tab, and it gets slid to whoever isn't in the spotlight. Picture a manager who announces a breakthrough. The deck is polished, the numbers sing, the room nods. What you don't see is the teammate who stayed up 3 nights patching bugs, or the favours called in to rush a shipment, or the corners shaved off the process so it looked perfect today. The win is public. The cost is private. Or think about a politician who cuts a ribbon and calls it progress. It's a neat photo, a tidy quote. What you don't see are the maintenance budgets squeezed dry, the workers told to make do, the future tax bill that quietly ballooned to pay for that moment of shine. Again, credit up front, cost on layaway. Social feeds do it too. A creator drops a one simple trick, and it works, once in perfect lighting. Behind that clip is a friend who edited for free, a vendor who never got paid, or a fragile fix that falls apart when real life breathes on it. The trick creates buzz. The bill lands later, somewhere else. So how do you spot it? Start with one question that pops the balloon. Who paid? If the answer is blurry, you've found the exploit. Then trace the delay. Credit likes the present tense. Cost hides in future tense. If the celebration is now, but the risks are, we'll handle that later, your alarms should ring. And here's the twist. The shortcut often masquerades as leadership. Big voice, bold vision. But notice the footprint. Real leadership shares credit, names contributors, and budgets for the boring stuff that keeps the lights on. Why does this keep happening? Incentives. We reward visibility over stewardship, headlines over maintenance. We ask, who shipped, not who stabilized. We count wins like trophies and ignore the bruises people took to deliver them. When visibility is the scoreboard, the shortcut looks like a strategy. It's not. It's a transfer. It moves effort and risk from the center of attention to the edges, from the favored few to the dependable many. What can you do? If you're in the room, ask for receipts. Who did the work? Who's carrying the risk? Who's on call if this breaks? Name those people out loud. If you manage, bake credit sharing into the ritual. Say the names, explain the trade-offs, fund the follow-through. If you're tempted to grab the mic, pause, spread the spotlight. Your reputation grows slower and stronger when it rests on truth. And if you're the one paying the hidden cost, document. Keep a quiet ledger. When the moment comes, bring the facts, not to embarrass, but to balance. The system bends toward whatever we praise. Praise the builders, the testers, the maintainers, those who shoulder the unglamorous weight. The shortcut to credit looks fast. It's really a detour. Take the honest road, shared credit, visible costs, and you'll build something that doesn't collapse the second the clapping stops. Let everyone else swing first. Then you count the hits. That's the silent partner exploit. You're in the room, you're present, but you hold your fire while others spend their ammo. Silence isn't absence, it's a vault. Inside it, you collect every tell, every assumption, every rushed promise. Here's the move. You enter calm, curious, and quiet. Let the talkers talk. They'll anchor the numbers, reveal priorities, even argue with each other. People hate empty space, so they rush to fill it with secrets they don't realize they're giving away. You just breathe, nod, take a note, tilt your head like you're weighing gold. Isn't that manipulative? Only if you use it to deceive. The clean version is simple. Observe fully, decide wisely, speak last. Watch what happens when you stay quiet. The eager voice sets the first offer. The ambitious one overcommits. The cautious one shows the fear. You map the whole board without moving a piece. Then, when you finally speak, you've got hindsight baked in. You already know what matters to who, what's non-negotiable, what's fluff. Silence works because it changes the tempo. Fast talkers sprint. You jog. They burn oxygen. You store it. And when you finally step in, you sound like clarity. You're not louder, you're later, which makes you sound smarter. That's the edge. Use it in meetings. Let the ideas pile up. Then tie them together in one clean thread. Here's what I'm hearing. Here's what we need. Here's the simplest next step. No drama, just gravity. Use it in negotiations. Let the other side explain, defend, justify. Count the tells. Ask one calm question that reframes the whole deal, then go quiet again. Silence is a mirror. People keep talking to fill it, and the truth eventually shows up. Use it when you're being sold something. Let the pitch run. Ask, what happens if we do nothing? Wait. The real price usually walks onto the stage wearing its own name tag. You might worry, won't I look passive? Not if you turn silence into signals. Your eyes up, pen moving, occasional short prompts. Go on, help me understand, keep going. That says, I'm listening, not lost. You're guiding without grabbing the wheel. And here's the twist. Speaking last doesn't mean speaking long. One or two sharp lines can reset a whole room. Keep it crisp. When you save words, each word weighs more. Try this the next time stakes feel high. Walk in calm. Shut the door on the urge to impress. Let the noise crest and break. When the room exhales, step forward and land your point. Measured, specific, unhurried. Silence isn't a pause, it's a power source. Use it to see farther. Choose cleaner and strike when the path is already lit by everyone else's flashlight. Wait, watch, write, then win by going last. One ping slips through the fence, and suddenly there's a highway. That's how boundary breaches start. Not with a smash, but with a whisper. A co-worker sends a quick message on the wrong channel. A neighbour, just this once, uses your driveway. A friend forward something urgent to your personal account because it's faster. It feels small, even polite to let it slide. But here's the exploit. If it works once, it becomes the new path of least resistance. Ever notice how one harmless exception turns into the new normal? People don't always push doors, they test hinges. If a quiet crossover gets them what they want, next time they expect less pushback. Not because they're bad, but because systems teach. Our responses become rules. For example, you set a work policy. Approvals happen by email. Clear, simple. Then a chat pops up late. Hey, can you sign off on this real quick? You answer to be helpful. No fireworks, problem solved. Tomorrow, 2 more messages arrive. Earlier, bolder. By next week, you're approving projects in 3 different places, chasing decisions across apps, and no one knows where anything lives. The system didn't break, it leaked. Psychologically, repetition changes expectation. It's called habituation, the brain's tendency to stop reacting to something it's seen before. When a boundary crossing repeats without friction, it stops feeling like a crossing and starts feeling like the road. So what stops the cross-platform exploit? Not anger, not lectures. Clarity paired with consistency. A calm redirect the moment it matters. Try this line in your own voice. Quick heads up. Approvals live in email. If you send it there, I'll review it first thing. No apology, no essay, just a signed post. Then do it again and again. Quietly. Predictably. Here's the twist. Clear boundaries don't push people away. They create safety. When folks know where decisions happen, they don't have to guess, chase, or escalate. That lowers emotional resistance and makes cooperation more likely. Think about your life's platforms. Work chat versus email. Personal text versus group thread. Home time versus just-a-minute tasks. Decide what each lane is for. Then label your doors out loud. When someone knocks on the wrong one, guide them to the right door and open it there. Will some people keep testing? Sure. Exploits look for silence. They feast on just this once. But every calm, redirect, retrains the map. And every time you follow your own rule, you teach others to follow it too. This isn't about being rigid. It's about being reliable, not punishment, but clarity. Not walls, but lanes. Because when boundaries cross quietly, expectations shift loudly. And once the highway is open, traffic flows. Close the side gate early. Keep the main road clear. Protect the channel and the system stays strong. Ever notice how the biggest wins happen in the blur, not the spotlight? The grey area exploit lives right there in that blur. It's when the rules leave gaps and someone learns to stand inside the gap. Not breaking the rule exactly. Not honouring the spirit either. Just living in the middle, so when the light swings over, they're never fully wrong. Here's the trick. You look for policies that say what you can't do, but stay quiet on how far you can go. Silence becomes a sandbox. If a store promises price protection but never defines comparable, you find the boundary, test it, and document everything. If a free trial forbids multiple accounts but doesn't define household, you build a story that fits. It's not lying, it's technical truth stretched like rubber. Is it illegal? Not quite. Is it clean? Also not quite. People who excel at this think in layers. First layer, language. They memorize the exact words, terms, clauses, footnotes, because exact words give you cover. Second layer, timing. They move before enforcement catches up, while the system's slow to adapt. Third layer, intent distance. The move is designed so if questioned, the explanation sounds reasonable. I followed the steps you provided. And here's the twist. Grey is portable. If a platform bans automation but allows helpers, suddenly you're not using bots, you're using assistants. If a marketplace prohibits resale at scale but allows private collections, you rotate inventory like a collector, not a store. The behavior stays the same. The label shifts. The label is the shield. What keeps this alive is ambiguity. Power loves clarity. Bureaucracy produces fog. In fog, attention decides what matters, and attention is finite. So grey operators stay small enough to be boring or big enough to be normal, too tiny to flag or so common that everyone shrugs. You'll hear phrases like within guidelines, as provided, to the best of my understanding. Those aren't filler, they're lifelines. They anchor you to the rule book while you bend around it. And when something snaps, the exit is ready. Apologize fast, refund quickly, blame misunderstanding, adjust the method, then re-enter 3 steps to the left. But notice this. Grey isn't a home, it's a hallway. Every exploit that works pulls copycats. Copycats pull scrutiny. Scrutiny sharpens rules and the hallway narrows. What felt like clever soon becomes crowded, and then it's gone. So what's the real edge? Pattern fluency. You start to see the same shapes repeat. Vague definitions, inconsistent enforcement, misaligned incentives, delayed audits. When you spot those shapes, you can predict where grey will appear next. Not because you're a mastermind, but because systems leak in familiar ways. One more question. Are you safe in the grey? You're safer, not safe. You're not a criminal, but you're not a saint. The risk isn't handcuffs, it's reputation, blacklisting, quiet bans, bridges burned. And the longer you dance in the blur, the more the light learns your steps. Grey wins today. The house learns tomorrow. The only move that lasts is knowing when to walk out before the rules catch your name. There's a cheat code hiding in plain sight. No code, no keyboard, just a shiny reputation used like armor. Ever notice how some people never seem to get called out? Same rule, same mistake, different outcome. Here's the move. You build a name for being the fixer, the genius, the rainmaker, the one who always delivers. Then, when you break a rule, you don't take the hit. You redirect it. You point to the wins, the awards, the late nights. You widen the story until the problem looks small inside it. That story of you becomes the shield. It's the loop the rule exploit. The loop works like this. The rule says everyone files expenses by Friday. Your reputation says, hey, this person lands the big accounts. You miss Friday. The room shrugs. They're slammed, it's fine. And because it's fine once, it becomes fine twice. The exception grows legs and starts running the place. Psychologically, we treat reputation like insurance, social credit that lowers pushback and raises benefit of the doubt. That feels safe, but it quietly shifts accountability from actions to identity. Let's ground it. A star developer hot fixes in production without review. Once it saves the day, twice it saves the week. On the third time, a bug knocks a system offline. When the question lands, why skip the process again? The answer comes armoured. You know I move fast. Speed is how we win. Notice the trick. The argument isn't about the choice. It's about the persona. The persona wins, the rule loses, and the loop tightens. So how do you break it without turning into the accountability police? You name the swap. Right now, we're weighing identity over impact. Let's flip it. What did this action cost us, regardless of who did it? When you label the move, the armor stops being invisible. You separate history from today. Past wins can matter for trust, sure, but they can't pay the bill for current mistakes. Keep the praise for the pattern. keep the consequence for the action. Both can be true. Run the reverse swap test. Would we make the same call if a new hire did this? If the answer is no, the loop is in play. And here's the twist. You don't just apply this to others, you apply it to yourself. We all carry stories we want the world to see. Reliable, generous, brilliant. But when we use those stories to dodge the mess we made, we're not protecting our reputation, we're hollowing it out. Real credibility isn't the medal on your chest. It's how you handle the day you stumble. This isn't about shaming people. It's about protecting systems. Rules exist so the work is fair, safe, and repeatable. When reputation becomes a get-out-of-jail-free card, the system pays interest, and eventually everyone loses. Call the armor what it is. Shift the focus back to actions, impact, repair. Reward the fix, not the spin. In the long run, that builds trust that doesn't need a shield, and that's the kind of strength people actually believe. The slickest shield in reputation warfare doesn't look like armor at all. It looks like a friend. Here's the exploit. When someone's facing heat, they bring in a single highly visible ally from the very group they're accused of harming. One smiling face, one supportive quote, one photo handshake, and suddenly the arrows bounce off. Criticism feels awkward, maybe even unfair, because, hey, if they're fine with it, why aren't you? That's the reputation shield. It's not about community. It's about cover. It works because our brains lean on shortcuts. We look for social proof, for permission to proceed. A lone, confident endorsement can feel like a green light. Add a little urgency, a stage, a press release, and watch the conversation tilt. Doubt gets reframed as drama. Real harm gets rebranded as misunderstanding. And the person under fire looks somehow untouchable. But here's the twist. A token ally is a spotlight, not a sample size. One voice, no matter how loud, doesn't erase a pattern. It's like borrowing an umbrella in a storm, then claiming the weather's fine. The umbrella blocks the rain for you. It doesn't change the sky. So how do you spot the shield when it's deployed? Notice the timing. Does this ally appear only when there's backlash? Then vanish when policies are written, budgets are set, or decisions get made. Notice the incentives. Are they paid, sponsored, flown in, or later rewarded with a shiny title? And notice the silence. Do other voices from the same community keep raising alarms, but now get dismissed as dramatic because one person said, "It's all good"? Ask the questions that pierce the armor. What's the track record, not the photo op? Who has ongoing power, not just a mic for one day? If this ally disagreed tomorrow, would they still be invited back? Or would their key cards stop working? The shield has two parts. First, it blocks. We can't be biased. Look at our ally. Then it strikes. Our critics must be overreacting. That second move is the real damage. It isolates dissenters, paints them as unreasonable, and lets the pattern keep running underneath the applause. To counter it, widen the frame. Seek more voices, especially the quiet ones doing the unglamorous work. Compare words to outcomes: policy, pay, access, safety. Replace the single story with a fuller picture, and the illusion thins. You'll see when allyship is partnership and when it's just PR. And if you're the one tempted to use the shield, try this instead. Share real control. Give the mic and the budget and the veto. Make the ally unnecessary as a prop because they're indispensable as a leader. That's not a shield. That's a bridge. One last check. When the rain starts, do they hand someone an umbrella? Or do they build a roof? If it's only the umbrella, you're looking at a performance. If it's the roof, you're looking at change. The smallest handshake can hide the biggest handcuffs. You've seen it. Someone offers a tiny favor, a quick boost, a public nod. It looks generous. It feels harmless. And then, somehow, there's a tab running in the background. An open ledger you never agreed to. They don't send an invoice because the debt isn't on paper. It's in your head. Here's the exploit. Instead of delivering results, they trade in favours. A connection here, a mention there, a last-minute rescue when eyes are on you. And now they're an ally, right? But notice what shifts. You stop asking for outcomes. You start paying with access, attention, and silence. The currency is loyalty, and the interest rate climbs every time they remind you what they did for you. Ever get that message that begins with, "After everything I've done"? That's the tell. The favour wasn't a gift. It was collateral. And the more you accept help without clear goals, the more you're financing someone else's influence with your own credibility. How does it play out? In a meeting, they lightly back your idea, then later cash in for credit. In a crunch, they swoop in, then expect a pass when their work misses the mark. They won't ask you for something outrageous right away. It starts small, framed as appreciation, framed as just this once. Then you hear, "We're on the same team. You know I've got you. Don't make me look bad." The wording sounds friendly. The pressure is real. So how do you break it? Switch from favours to results. Thank the help, and then pin it to outcomes. What are we aiming to achieve and by when? If the answer gets mushy, the deal's already tilted. Name the exchange out loud. That's the part they hope you skip. I appreciate the intro. Does that come with expectations? If they flinch at transparency, you just saved yourself months of quiet obligation. Keep simple receipts, not a dossier, just a note of who did what and when. When credit gets foggy, facts clear it. Real allies like clarity. Opportunists like fog. Set boundaries before you need them. I can't commit to returning a favour for this. If the work is strong, I'll support it because it's strong. That's not rude, it's honest, and it tells the room what keeps the system fair. If someone tries to cash in on a vague promise, walk it back to the ground. Let's look at the results, not the favour. You'll feel the power shift, because it is a shift from social IOUs to shared accountability. Ask yourself one question and give it space. Am I rewarding loyalty theatre or measurable progress? Real allies don't charge admission. They carry weight, they share credit, and they own their misses. The exploit only works when we pay with silence. So say it plainly, pay only for outcomes, and close the tab that never should have been open. You don't owe for the handshake. You owe for the work. And when the work stands, no one needs to collect. Ever watch a room speed up because of a clock that only you can see? That's the move. You plant a ticking sound, and suddenly people who were drifting start sprinting. Call it the credit swap exploit. You borrow a little urgency from a deadline you invent, then swap that urgency onto the person holding what you need. They move first, you move last, and you look fast without rushing. Here's how it plays out. You're waiting on someone's reply, a file, an approval. Days pass, silence grows heavy. Instead of chasing again with just checking in, you anchor a window that sounds real and nearby. You say, "I'm aligning this with the budget lock this Thursday, so I'd love your green light before end of day Wednesday." Now there's a clock, there's a reason, and the pressure isn't on you, it's on them. Is it a trick? It's a frame. Think of it like putting traffic cones around your lane so cars stop drifting into you. You're not lying about who you are. You're shaping the flow so things move. The secret is plausibility. Tie the deadline to something that could exist. A print window, a vendor shipment, a calendar freeze, a scheduled sync, a seasonal push. Keep it narrow and short, not next month, this week, not someday, soon. Short windows create motion because people fear missing a small door more than a wide open gate. You also give an easy yes. Add a clear next step that can be done in minutes, not hours. A quick approval is perfect. I'll do the polishing after. Their brain hears low effort and high payoff. That's rocket fuel. Worried it'll backfire. Then write an exit ramp. If they slip, you say, "No worries, I can hold the final by Friday morning if that helps." You keep the tone light, never panicked, never dramatic. The clock is firm, but friendly. Try it in everyday places, the contractor who keeps delaying. "I'm confirming materials by midweek, so I can schedule the install slot. Can you send the quote by Tuesday?" The professor who's slow to grade. "I'm submitting my scholarship packet this weekend. Could I get feedback by Thursday to incorporate it?" The customer support ticket that vanished. "I have to close my expense report by Friday. Can we finalize the refund before then?" Same rhythm. Borrow urgency. Swap it onto them. Move on. What if they ask where the deadline came from? You keep it simple. "It's tied to my schedule. I'm batching tasks this week." True enough. You set the frame. And here's the twist. Once people move for your invented window, they often keep moving. Momentum sticks. Your pace becomes the default pace. You can wait for the world to speed up. Or you can lend it your clock, collect the credit, and get things done now. Start with a lie your calendar can keep. Not a scam, a nudge. You give yourself a countdown that looks official, sounds urgent, and makes your brain sit up straight. But the ground underneath is padded. That's the exploit. Manufacture the deadline. Manufacture the fall. Here's why it works. Your brain respects clocks more than intentions. Intention is soft. A clock is loud. So you borrow that noise, but you design the landing. Think of it like parkour for projects. You don't jump bigger first. You learn how to land without breaking your knees. The metaphor is simple. Falling safely means failure never really hurts you. So you set 2 clocks, the one you say out loud and the one you quietly trust. The out loud clock pulls you into action. It turns "I'll get to it" into "I'm on the hook." The quiet clock is the real margin, the cushion that makes missing the first one a bruise, not a broken bone. Worried that's sneaky? Label it. Call it a beta, a draft, a soft launch. You're not lying, you're staging. You're letting urgency do its job while you control the risk. That's the twist. Urgency without panic. What does falling safely look like, practically? You ship a smaller version to a smaller circle. You cap the blast radius on purpose. If something breaks, only a handful of people see it, and you learn fast. You pre-decide the floor for damage, so fear has nowhere to hide. Money, time, scope. Who sees it first? Each one gets a limit. Limits make the world safer, not smaller, and you pace yourself with micro deadlines. One push for one chunk, then a breath. Another push, another breath. Short sprints, quick reviews, tiny patches. The cadence keeps momentum while your brain keeps trusting you. Momentum is a promise kept in motion. Do you worry you'll look foolish if you miss? Good. That tiny sting is the spark. You'll sharpen your plan, cut fluff, protect the essentials. You'll find the one thing that proves progress today, not eventually. You'll make it visible, even if it's rough. Rough is honest. Rough can be repaired. Invisible can't. What happens when you hit the wall anyway? You bounce, because you built the trampoline. You already rehearsed the rescue plan. You know who you'll tell, what you'll roll back, and how you'll reset the clock without shattering trust. You don't spiral, you pivot. Here's the quiet superpower. The system rewards urgency more than intention. And this exploit gives you urgency on tap. It feels unfair because it is. You're playing your own psychology against itself in your favour. So set the earlier date. Tell a tiny circle. Ship a small version. Learn where it cracks. Patch, polish, push again. Fear shrinks. Courage grows. The deadline keeps you honest, and the landing keeps you safe. And when the real day arrives, it won't feel like a cliff. It'll feel like a step you've already practiced over and over until stepping is just what you do. The email lands with that familiar thud. Vendor issue. 2 words. Instant absolution. Heads nod. The heat drops. And the story writes itself. We outsourced. They failed. Case closed. But here's the quiet exploit hiding in plain sight. Outsourcing becomes the safety net we use to dodge the real miss. Not their incompetence, our decisions, our process, our lack of ownership. Picture this. A team rushes a launch. Specs are fuzzy, acceptance criteria live in someone's head, and a review gets skipped because time's tight. A bug slips through. By morning, everyone's repeating the same line. The external team missed it. It sounds true. It even feels true. But who set the deadline? Who defined done? Who chose to trade clarity for speed? Blame feels like safety when stakes are high. It lowers immediate pressure, it protects the ego, and it rallies a tribe around a convenient villain. But notice what it costs. Trust erodes, learning stalls. The same failure loops back next quarter. Different ticket, same route. So what's the move when your brain wants a scapegoat? Try this shift right out loud before the story hardens. Instead of they messed up, say we didn't make the expectation testable. Instead of they missed the handoff, say we didn't design the handoff. Instead of they ignored the spec, say we wrote a spec they could interpret 3 ways. Hear the difference? These lines do something blame can't. They point to levers you control. They create real safety, the kind built on clarity, not cover. Psychologically, this matters. Our brains default to a self-protect mode under threat. Blame is quick relief. Ownership takes courage, but ownership also turns a mess into a map. When you name your slice, people lean in, the room calms, the path forward appears. Here's the twist. Outsourcing done well isn't a shield, it's a mirror. It shows your systems as they are, clear or vague, resilient or brittle. If an outside team can't follow your playbook isn't written. If they surprise you, your feedback loop is missing. If they keep failing, your definition of success is fog. What does strong look like? A single source of truth. Definitions of done that anyone could test. Handoffs with names, not hopes. Regular check-ins that catch drift early, not autopsies after the fact. And when something breaks, a reflex to ask, what did we own here? Before we ask, who do we call? Will that feel awkward at first? Sure. But watch what changes when you stop using the safety net as a disguise. Your partners start performing better because your inputs got better. Your team learns faster because the lessons are visible. The system feels sturdier because it's built on responsibility, not stories. Outsourcing doesn't hide who made the mistake. It reveals it. The exploit is blame. The patch is ownership. And that's how you build a net you rarely need to fall into, because you're too busy climbing with both hands on your work. Ever watch someone trip a fire alarm, then swear they were just trying to test the batteries? That little pivot is the Outsource-the-Blame Exploit. It moves the spotlight from what happened to what they meant, so failure gets reframed as injustice. Suddenly, they're not responsible, they're the victim. Here's the reframe in plain sight. Instead of asking, what did you do? The person demands, why didn't you understand me? It's a clever swap. Intention becomes the shield. Consequences get fuzzy, and the conversation shifts from repair to defense. Picture a team stand-up. A deadline's missed. The manager says, "We needed that yesterday." The teammate fires back, "You misunderstood my intention. I was making it better." Now the manager is cast as unfair. The teammate is the wronged party. The actual result? Still late. The impact on the client? Still real. Why does this move work so well? Our brains protect our self-story. We're quicker to defend our motives than to face our outcomes. It feels safer to be misread than to be wrong. Psychologically, calling attention to a noble intention invites sympathy and softens scrutiny, which keeps the ego intact while the mess stays on the table. So if someone runs this exploit on you, try shifting the ground back to where it belongs. Start with a calm anchor. "I hear what you intended, and here's what happened." Name the impact in simple words, then set the next step. What repair can we do now? Notice the order: acknowledge, impact, action. That sequence turns a spinning argument into progress by moving from motives to outcomes. And if you catch yourself doing it, because we all do, especially when we feel exposed, take a breath. Own your slice. Say, "My intention was good, the impact missed. Here's what I'll do to fix it." That sentence is quiet power. It tells people they're not crazy for noticing the damage, and it tells them you're sturdy enough to repair it. When you lead with impact, you don't abandon your intentions. You just stop using them as armor. 3 quick cues to spot the exploit in the wild. 1, the person tells a long story about what they meant, and a very short one about what happened. 2, they accuse you of unfairness the moment you name outcomes. 3, the solution is for you to apologize for misunderstanding them. And here's the twist. You can be generous without surrendering clarity. Try. I get the intent. The result still created a cost. Let's fix the cost. Rhetorical pause. What matters more? The story you tell about yourself or the trail you leave behind? This is the heart of it. Intention is the map. Impact is the terrain. When the two don't match, the terrain wins. If we keep returning to outcomes gently, steadily, without drama, people learn faster, trust climbs, and the system gets better. That's the arc to aim for. Hook the mind with something relatable, then pivot to a clear reframe, a real example, and a simple path forward, so the last line lands and lingers. Don't outsource the blame. Upgrade the accountability. When failure stops masquerading as injustice, growth becomes possible. There's a quiet cheat code in human trust. Intention. Say, "I really tried," and watch the room lean back. Soften, nod. It's like a smoke bomb for accountability. The moment's suddenly cloudy, and the missing result slips away. Here's the twist. Our brains are wired to give effort the benefit of the doubt. Effort sounds noble. It sounds fair. So, "I tried" hijacks that instinct and cashes in social credit without paying with outcomes. It's an exploit, a tiny shortcut that dodges the cost of finishing. You've felt it. A teammate promises to file the report, shows up empty-handed and says, "I was up late working on it." Conversation over. Or a friend swears they called the company, sat on hold forever, and still nothing changed. The intention is waived like a hall pass. No one asks to see the stamp, but results don't care about intent. They don't move because we wanted them to. Bridges don't stand because someone meant well. You can hear the difference. "I tried to send the email" versus "the email is sent." One keeps you guessing. The other closes the loop. Why do we fall for it? Because asking for proof feels rude. Because we don't want to be the bad guy who says, "Show me." and because we use it on ourselves. I tried to eat better. I tried to study. The phrase lets you keep your self-image intact while your goals stay exactly where they were. So how do you block the exploit without turning into a drill sergeant? Make the finish line visible before anyone starts. Not, let's try to contact them, but by Thursday we'll have a confirmation from their team lead. Notice the shape of that change, from a vibe to a verifiable state, from fog to a line you can touch. Then swap effort stories for artifacts. If someone says, "I called," ask, "Great, who picked up? What did they say? What's the ticket number?" You're not policing them. You're asking for the footprint. Real work leaves tracks. Set small, dated checkpoints. Not pressure, clarity. By tomorrow morning, we'll have the draft title and the opening paragraph. You'll learn fast whether intention turns into motion or melts when the clock hits. And yes, turn the spotlight inward. Where are you using the phrase as camouflage? The moment you hear yourself say, "I tried," add the missing beat. "I tried, and here's what I'll change next," so it actually gets done. That word matters. Done is a door you can walk through. Trying is a hallway with no exit. The exploit works because we're kind. Keep the kindness, drop the loophole. Praise the grind, but pay only for outcomes. Trade apologies for adjustments. Track the next concrete step, not the story around it. Effort is beautiful. Results are necessary. And when those two shake hands, that's not an excuse. That's progress. Ever notice how a locked door earns you more respect when you walk back with a scuffed key? That's the pretend you tried exploit. It sounds shady, but here's the twist. It works best when it's honest. The trick isn't to fake effort. It's to make effort visible, even when it doesn't work. So the failure buys you credibility and the next green light. People can argue with results. They struggle to argue with receipts. When you show your attempts, screenshots, notes, a short write-up of what you tested and what broke, you're telling a quiet story. I acted in good faith. I learned something, and I'm safer to bet on next time. So how do you use it without being that person who always has an excuse? Start by picking a target you can miss without wrecking everything. Aim just beyond your current reach. Then design your attempt to leave footprints. If you're pitching an idea, bring a tiny mock-up and a half-finished draft. If you're debugging a nightmare, keep a simple log of what you tried and the exact error message. If you're applying for a role, tailor one page, not 20, and capture the reply, even if it's a no. Now fail fast on purpose, but in daylight. Send the draft, run the test, ask the question. When it wobbles, don't hide it. Surface it with calm clarity. Here's what I attempted, here's what happened, here's what I learned. Then the turn. Use that failure as a key. You propose a smaller next move that sounds safer because it's informed. I got blocked by policy here, so I can ship a lighter version by Friday. The vendor's API times out at this limit, so I can cache results hourly and cut the risk. The hiring manager passed, but they flagged my gap in X. Mind if I circle back in a month with a quick project to close it? Managers reward what reduces uncertainty. Your visible attempt lowers their risk. Your failed try becomes a proof of diligence, a map of the terrain, and a reason to give you access, budget, or time. Isn't that manipulative? It can be if you stage theatre with no intent to learn. But when you treat each miss like data, you're doing the opposite. You're compressing the cost of discovery and giving everyone a safer decision. It's an exploit, only because most people hide their mistakes, then wonder why no one trusts them. A few guardrails help. Don't over-dramatize. Keep it short and factual. What you tried, what you saw, what you'll do next. Don't repeat the same failure. Evolve it. And don't throw anyone under the bus. Protect your team's trust like it's gold. Here's the payoff. Over time, the pattern compounds. People start to expect that you'll try, you'll document, you'll adjust. Doors open, budgets loosen, invitations appear. The myth is that success creates credibility. Often it's the other way around. Credibility creates the space for success. So wear the scuff marks proudly. Show the effort. Bring the receipts. Let the failure speak, then make the next ask. If you do it right, the system doesn't punish your mistakes. It funds your next attempt.